Hello everyone and welcome back to the VCT Game Changers APAC Series Open 1, and we just saw a dominating duo performance fresh out of the gate from Team SMG to take down GE Phoenix. We've had, a couple of minutes to take a breather, sort out our thoughts, and Raf, I wanted to ask you again, what did you think about that last series? Does it looked like such an absolute shutout from Team SMG?
I honestly thought that the narratives and the way that they collided, I feel like it should have been a little more competitive because of the pressure that I would assume GE Phoenix would be feeling, because again, the pride of the entire region is on their backs and they are representing quite a lot of people who are very, very proud and very, very excited to play the game. But SMG, they just don't seem to care. They want to keep running up that round differential, and they just were so refined. As I mentioned, if you really break it down to the smaller things, their trading was absolutely immaculate, and they were always in positions that would net them basically a positive every time a player on their side would typically die or get fragged. The girls were just so sharp on taking forward space without risking too much, with the lack of utility, mind you.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also because we are running a double elimination style of bracket, just because GE Phoenix lost today does not mean that they are out of the competition just yet. Also, looking a bit at, the top 8 teams that did make it into the playoffs, I think there is a fair chance for GE Phoenix to make that comeback run through the lower bracket, depending on how the second series for today on both streams ends up panning out. So definitely, I mean, they're down but not out just yet, whereas Team SMG, they just look prepped to, I don't want to say to take the entire Open 1, but podium finish, top 3. They look like a decent chance to top 3. We've taken RRQ and SCYTHE into account, also our frontrunner teams. That's kind of what I'm feeling. I'm not sure if you agree, Raf.
I'm just gonna say, if ever anything happens to SMG, let it be known that it was jinxed for the first time during Open 1 by Reiruchu. Right here.
Like, if they don't make it to Elite, it will be my fault. I will personally text Kohybe, Alexi, I'll look up all their Twitters, and I'll be like, I am so sorry, it was me. Like, it's not me, alright? I've been cheering SMG on for like 2 years. You know what? Now that I think about it, they didn't make Berlin last year, but that was not on me. That was not on me. It was not the caster curse, all right? But I mean, come on. This year, they've got all the pieces. They've got their roster. Hey, enough of that. Enough of that, Raph. I see you, okay? But yeah, I just have high hopes for Team SMG, because not just because Kohybe is just absolutely like the most correct player that's come out of Singapore, but talking about correct players coming out of Singapore, we do have a little teaser that one of the other players from Team Orangutan is also from Singapore. And we don't get a lot of representation in Game Changers APAC because we're a small country. We have a fairly small player base, but we'll talk a bit more about the lineups later on. Of course, we are raring to go for our last match of the day. It's going to be between Team Orangutan as well as BIGG SCYTHE, and Orangutan running a bit of a more mixed roster with a 3PH, a Singaporean girl, Chloe TTW, who has been, we'll talk more about this later. I just love her. I love Chloe so much because she's been playing an APAC series for years at this point. She started when she was in university. We'll come back to this, but then they're going up against BIGG SCYTHE, who then have a full ID roster that they're going for. So pretty excited for this next matchup. I think we will be taking a look at their lineups in just a bit.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you mentioned that the compositions of these teams, it's a little more mixed on the side of Orangutan, and I feel like, actually, do I divulge the information I was about to talk about? We were going to see the roster reveal. I spill now? I mean, they have had quite a number of roster changes, and I feel like that's their biggest theme. Do they have the right pieces? This was something that we all agreed on during, of course, the meeting, the study session. Again, guys, I'm just going to reveal that everybody on this broadcast is a bunch of nerds. Just not just me, everybody else. And you can see Reiruchu cannot defend herself from the truth right now. She's
thought about
absolutely
it.
stunned.
I was like,
wait a minute, you're right.
Darn it. You're right. How dare you be right? Yeah, we had like, what was it, like a 3.5 hour long prep session yesterday. We kept getting sidetracked too.
Oh yeah.
I count, Tash. And like Black and Blue was just kind of like the dad of our broadcast, right? He was always like, Orangutan, the Knicks team narrative, come on, focus. And it was just like, it was a fun time. We were all like just geeking out about stats and like storylines, narratives coming from last year, the year before. But yeah, you were about to tell us, you're about to geek out about Orangutan. Come on, break it down for us.
Now that you put it that way, I don't want to. Now that I'm being told what to do, I'd rather refuse. But
Wow.
Just a small preview, right? This is a team that's, I feel like it has been a running theme for them to individually get pieces individually that stand out. They're very, very good. And again, to say the least, they belong at the top. But it's just the gelling that really needed work all throughout their iterations. I hope that we don't get to see something similar, especially with this new version of them. Is this it? Is this the final version of Orangutan? Is this the most, I guess, stacked roster that they would have? But as I mentioned that, guys, we are going to take a look at the Orangutan roster. So eyes here, guys. Focus up. And as we mentioned, right, individually, these are incredibly explosive players that have had stints on incredibly successful teams. And just going through the motions will be very second nature to them. So you can already tell that the refinement at an individual level is there. Team-wise, again, I begged the question earlier. I'll do it again. Are they going to fit in? I think this is the ultimate test too.
Yeah, hands down. I mean, Orangutan, if you guys have been watching Game Changers APAC for the last couple of years, this is the team that was known as that comeback team, right? They famously, Tash brings this up all the time. We brought this up yesterday as well. And we were like, I mean, it was just absolutely amazing. Their 111 comeback versus X10 Sapphire in open overtime last year. But I think the big question for them is that, as you mentioned, going through all those roster changes this year, they're playing without their former IGL Sway, who has moved over to more of a content creation role. So she's not playing for the team, but where is that going to leave Orangutan? Of course, we can't not talk about their opponents for today's series. It is going to be Team Big, SCYTHE, Aurophilia, Yamori, Marche, Iruma, as well as Gwen. And we mentioned earlier that they're running a full ID roster. I think in the past also, last year, the year before, they did also run the full ID roster. This time around, they did make it out of the Swiss bracket as the second team to go 6-0. So very good performance from them coming out of Swiss. There is sort of like a argument where people were saying because there were 70 teams that played in the Swiss bracket, and just because only 8 teams make it out, right? But there were so many teams participating. Some teams like got very different matchups from each other, but I think that doesn't take anything away from the fact that they beat every single team that they came up against. It's just a testament to how strong this current roster is. Of course, the org has been in VCT APAC Game Changers since 2021 as well. Fun fact for all you guys, if you might remember, one of our other broadcast casters, Bella Heartfire, also did formerly play for this team in a previous Game Changers competition also. But I think the people to watch for this team, the Yamori as well as Baby Jeever, they've been the original Big SCYTHE duo. They've been around together forever as this duo. This time around, they have picked up a couple of pieces here and there. They picked up Aurophilia. Famously, she used to be on AEC, and then I think for last year's qualifier, she was on Orangutan as well. So a bit of a PK between the teams for this matchup might be a bit spicy, but I think we are going to go into map select very soon. And just the thing about this roster, right, is that they had such a good Swiss performance, but how will playoffs shake out for them? So map number 1, Ascent. Wow.
Oh boy. With just overall Wow, indeed. I said this earlier, but this is even more so default heavy, especially with Icebox in the mix. Again, I don't want to jump into the map 3 conclusions as early as now, but this is definitely going to benefit the more free-spirited team that's much comfortable in looser calls. Like, hey guys, let's just have an area where we want to dominate, but the call is not going to be as meticulous. So basically let everybody do their own thing. And this is a little off topic, but I have not heard the term PK in forever. I am just saying that right now. It has been a good amount of time, and
I mean,
Wow.
it's like from the days where people were like, "Yo, 1v1 me, bro." Like,
super
I
MMO,
feel,
yeah.
I feel like now for Valorant, it's always like peek me, yeah, peek me mid. I feel like that's what the kids are saying. That talking about peek me, I mean, Ascent, come on, it's gonna be all about that mid control, right? About like who's feeling themselves, who gets like that operator looking down mid, and just looking at the map picks and how it might shape out. I'm actually really hoping for the series to go to map number 3 because I would love to see Icebox for today. But I mean, we see a lot of Haven already. Ascent is just kind of like, as you mentioned, just fast and loose like, with those calls. But Icebox is really where I want to see just how much the teams have taken away from watching Lock-In in Brazil and what they will utilize tonight. So might be a bit early to call it, but if we do go to map 3, I would be super hyped.
I absolutely would be too. And I'm glad that you also brought up the importance of having mid control in a lot of these maps. Again, it will hinge where the 50-50 game will begin. And
Yep.
Ascent is, even in older iterations, it was either, hey, let's take care of mid as if it was a baby, or just completely outright ignore it. And we've seen that philosophy really go through different teams and the way it would normally fit. I don't know if that's the analogy I want to make now with that suspicious face. Like, what do you mean?
No,
It's like-
I was like, that actually that's like literally like the two styles of parenting, right? It's either like mid is your baby, or it's just like, oh, mid can take care of itself, mid's an independent woman in 2023, so I was just like, this works, that makes sense. I like it.
Wow. Honestly, wow.
Anyway, so talking a bit more about Ascent and coming out of Lock-In Brazil, we're about to dive into the agent draft. What do we think we might potentially see, or just what do we think like is strong if the teams are going to play standard?
I feel like we're always gonna see a Jet here because, again, the gap close is always gonna be super, super I guess important, right? No matter what you're trying to do, maybe you want to get early control over tiles. You're probably going to put your defensive Jet towards mid. But I feel like I'm just super curious. You did mention it a lot that we are off Sao Paulo. We are right off the bat from Lock-In. And there's going to be a lot of curious comps that we could be seeing today on the field. We didn't see too much of it in our previous matchup. But right now, it could be the tempo changer of it all. But if it just really plays standard, I feel like you could make a good argument between Killjoy and Cypher here. I think both are very, very plausible. It just depends on if you want, or rather if you value the lurk threat a little bit more, or if you value the, ease of initiation and ease of use in general in the form of Killjoy. And if you want to be a very, very, tight-knit group, no roaming, just super 5-man everything.
Yeah, I think Ascent also is just one of those maps that you can have a bit more flexibility in terms of that agent composition. It's not so much like, it's not so much of like, can we still play Breach? Is KJ still popular? But it's more of like comboing 2 or 3 agents together to finding that fit. So I think it's one of those maps that really like different teams will have practiced their compositions as 5. So I'm really excited to see that. I think we did get word from production that we are instead going to toss to a short little break before we come back with Agent Select. So don't go anywhere, get a snack, get some food. We'll be back shortly. Hi guys, we're back again for what will hopefully be Agent Select in just a very short while. We've got a bit more, like maybe just a couple of minutes more before we hop into that Agent Select, which gives us time to talk more about the agents that we think that these teams will play today. I mean, when we're talking about Orangutan in particular, right? The loss of Sway, their IGL for them this year, and we're kind of seeing like a Capricious, who is also known for her jet play, right? She was formerly from Zolmaraki, and we were saying, like, we were theorizing that she's probably going to be the duelist for Orangutan for this open one, which historically was Sway's spot. So we could see her like fill in that space for the jet. And then Zinni, I think she was from former brand from Victress, kind of is playing the flex role, could possibly chamber, could also like Viper or more like Breach, you might see on Ascent as well. Just a lot of different options. I think for Orangutan in particular, we're not really sure just how well this team will mesh, right? Do they have the right pieces for their puzzle, as you were talking about this year, especially after all the roster changes? So what do we think?
Well, I feel like you've addressed a lot of the points already, and it's really curious to me that how are they gonna manage when they've lost an IGL, and I feel like that's such a big thing, right? Because the IGL provides a lot of clarity and direction. And sometimes even when teams get that first pick and just aggressive map control early on in the round, they don't necessarily play off of that momentum very well, and in turn it gives the opposite team time to really set up some sort of counterplay or just set up counter positioning. In any case, it's still super interesting because they added a lot of firepower, and so their just ability to take space directly is going to be all that much stronger. It's just that's my biggest question, right? The direction of this team, where is it going? Are they gonna have some sort of clarity, or is one of the players really gonna step up to the plate? This is the system we're gonna be going for now. And once again, just the question of what does it mean to have a new IGL, basically.
Yeah, and I feel that on a map such as Ascent as well, like Ascent just seems as if one of those maps where sometimes teams get a pick at the start, but then they're a bit hesitant to rotate. I feel that's
Mm-hmm.
just my initial thoughts. I feel that on some other maps, for example, maybe like Pearl, maybe like Haven, sometimes you see teams get a pick and then the teams and say like, oh, okay, like let's hit C, let's like move really fast. But I feel like Ascent, even if you do get like say a pick in mid from an op, I feel like teams are a bit more willing to play slow. How do you think this will affect if like there's not really like one person who's stepping up to be the IGL?
And man, I really hate bringing this back to the SMG game because they just played such beautiful Valorant and such well-refined Valorant that they've become a bit of a reference, really, and they really set the bar high for everybody else. And that's it, right? It's just, as I mentioned earlier, it's clarity in decision making. That small split second of you hesitating is enough for somebody to peek you, to flash you, and just do everything that they can in their power to cut you off. And like you mentioned, right, teams are going to be a little more hesitant on Ascent, especially knowing that the ability to cut rotations is super strong on this map. That's why a lot of teams would tend to overvalue mid at some different points of the map, even burning so much of the round timer just to get that type of security. So when with that uncertainty in place and losing a member off a rotation, that will really kind of hit you where it hurts, like mentally at least. It's like, oh, so now what? How do we adjust? We lost, let's just say, a smoke, right? Now we're not gonna have proper angle isolation and so on and so forth. So it does become a bit of a domino effect.
Yeah, and it's also interesting, right? Because when you take a look at Big Scythe, I think they, on paper, have a lot of the same problems that GE Phoenix had, or where not
Mm.
that they will run into them, but look like they potentially might run into the same problems that GE Phoenix had, which was that they only really have two players, Ophelia and Gwen, who have a lot of Game Changers experience coming into this year, whereas a couple of the other players on their team are relatively newer to the scene and to competitive play. So that is kind of like, it feels a bit like mirroring the Global Esports Phoenix situation where you have like Muffin, Luvigal, and Meow 16K as well, who are more of like the vets, and then they're the ones trying to show the new players the ropes. But as we saw from series number 1, that runs into problems of its own in terms of communication and being on the same page. What do you think?
I am sort of happy that it's showing itself now. Well, not in the way, right, like, oh, okay, so it's gonna become a big problem in a match. Not in that sense at all. Is that we're still very, very early in our Game Changers lifespan for this year at least. So with Open 2, Open 3, these are things that they can really iron out and refine even more. Just intangibles, really, I can't emphasize how important they are, because it doesn't matter if you're dropping 30 or 40 in a game, but once you start losing that confidence, suddenly it starts affecting your other teammates too without you knowing about it. And sometimes we really do see teams that hinge off that one player that pop off. Hopefully though, for both Orangutan and Big Scythe, that's not the case, because I feel like Big Scythe, they're more of the unknown quantity in terms of how they would approach the game and the basic philosophy of how they would default and how they would take a site. Because they are 6-0, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest question for them, right, when are they gonna, or at least like relative to Orangutan, who I believe has played against RQ Kaguya, when is Big Scythe gonna run into one of the powerhouses or one of the more recognizable powerhouses? When are they going to be quote-unquote challenged per se? And maybe just today might be the answer.
Yeah, 100%. I think that if I remember correctly, Big Scythe did drop one map in the Swiss bracket, although they did win all of their series. I believe that for SMG, I think for their 6-0, it was 2-0, I think, for all of their series, whereas like Big Scythe's one was like they did drop one map, but still a very good performance. But as you said, just they had such a good performance in Swiss out of 70 teams, but now that we're in the top 8 situation, just how big of a challenge is playoffs going to be for them? I think we probably will have to look at just whether the key players from both these teams are going to step up, right? I think for Big Scythe in particular, it's going to be Aurophilia as well as Gwen, who used to be on Enigma Galaxy and was very strong on that team, although the rest of Enigma Galaxy was also super strong. So it's kind of like your teammates are great and you look great also, but she was great all by herself, you know? So it's just whether Aurophilia and Gwen will step up. And then I think for Orangutan, they have more flexibility in terms of who they can play around, right? Because you've got Casper, you've got Capricious, who's amazing as well, Jet Pips, and then Chloe TTW, who's also shown rounds of brilliance and like just clutching in the past also. So I think the hit-to-hit is probably going to be pretty crucial for this matchup.
I love that you mentioned that too. The head-to-head, definitely. Who is going to be the, I guess, the link that they're trying to avoid the most? Because if we look at, of course, other circuits too, and sometimes the strategy is just maybe let's avoid the site with the best player and take our chances there and hope she doesn't rotate. It's the craziest thing, but once again, simplifying the game is honestly one of the best strategies, because hey, if it's working, why overcomplicate it, right?
Yeah, I've seen like so many like comms in solo queue where it's like, or if you're like in a 5-stack rank, right, where you recognize who the person popping off on the other team, essentially who the Inari on the other team is, right? And then you're just like, oh, like Jet's A, like guys, we're going B, or like, oh, the Opper is on A, like we're going B. I think on a map like Ascend, it's also very easy. Like if you peek mid, or if you just like look through A and you're like, oh, okay, you hear the op shot, it's just the instant call for people to be like, we're just hightailing out here. No one wants to deal with that, you know. And I think if you're talking about Jet, for example, that might be a mirror matchup for both these teams, especially on Ascend. It might come down to maybe a Jet div.
Potentially, right? I feel like since we are gonna see Big Scythe, if I'm not mistaken, do correct me if I'm wrong, they are a full ID team, right? As you mentioned.
Yep, they are.
We have seen so many teams from that region be incredibly systematic and honestly at times super robotic with the way that they operate with each other. So I'm excited if that's translated really well onto Big Scythe, or if they have, you know, a little bit of, I guess, something to make them unique and what is that X factor for that team. Because once again, going into this, I feel like both teams, I don't think they have enough data on each other to really anti-strat properly.
Yeah, I think so too. I think for Big Scythe also, because you're talking about their performance in Swiss, but then the fact that they have 2 older players and then 3 newer players. Because usually the concern when you have a roster that's made up of players with not as much experience in a pro circuit, usually the fear is that they get a bit nervous, they don't perform in the very first competition. But the fact that Big Scythe managed to 6-0 in the Swiss bracket for playoffs, I mean, I think that just is a testament to how strong they are mentally. And I don't know if it's a case of not having like expectations on them that also allows them to not have that pressure, or if it's just they're just that good, they're just that strong of mental. They have the mental that we can only dream of having. But I have big hopes for Big Scythe.
Big hopes for Big Scythe, and maybe just potentially them not having as much of an I guess expectation in comparison to other teams. That's also giving them the leeway to, guys, let's just play our game, let's not overthink it. Once again, like we said earlier, sometimes the best way to approach things is just to simplify it. It's either just do it or you don't. Wow, this has become a bit of a life lesson, folks. So this mini podcast while we're waiting is really getting its mileage.
I think we just got word from production that our podcast of the VCT Game Changers APAC Series 2023 map number 1 Series 2 is coming to an end as we go to our agent select very shortly.
Wow, is that your podcast voice?
I've never done a podcast before, so I don't know. That was me trying to do a podcast voice. I feel like this is why I've never done a podcast before.
I feel like before we get too distracted, among other things, is that we are going to be jumping into the agent select. And as we take a look, I honestly really appreciate this. It's super cool that we get to see the map before everything's happened. Naturally, we've seen it a million times, but different perspective. You know what I mean? Pretty nice.
Yeah. I like the little flyby, drive-by, just seeing it from, as you mentioned, a new perspective. Perspective where I don't fly in on race satchel and instantly die and my screen is gray. So, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's nice. But looking at the agent draft, right, we are seeing the Jet Mirror matchup from both sides that you predicted. We are seeing the Killjoy and Sova and Omen being mirrored as well. So the only difference is going to be the KO versus the Breach. What do you think about that? Both, of course, very popular on Ascent.
Oh man, I mean, once again, range is gonna be Sova's biggest friend. They're gonna be defaulting, I feel like, a little bit better, especially with a reliable angle clear. But the lack of flashes, or at least just having more flashes on the side of, I believe that was Orangutan, that's just gonna help them fight a little more safer. Of course, KO, what KO does is, I hate saying this for the 3rd time in like the last 5 minutes, he simplifies the game. He turns off abilities and turns on the guns, and I'm just so excited to see that.
All right, guys, with that, we are going to head onto the map, of course, bringing you guys the action. None other than Donut as well as a Tash Bunny. Once again, ladies, take it away.
Both of these teams have had a lot of big shifts when it comes to their roster, but now the question is, who will sustain, right? Who will perform in their first ever debut game in the playoffs of Game Changers? So I think that's the biggest question. Who will sustain? Because I think there are a lot of changes, right? And I think the panel talked about a lot of these things, right? And what will be the changes? Are there information that at least Oreophilia is able to gather from the current playstyle of Orangutan? And at the same time, will there be reads?
It's really hard to really pinpoint what exactly will be the changes from Orangutan, given the fact that they had actually a roster, I wouldn't say an overhaul, but they did have 2 different players come through. Regardless, as we go into the first map of the 2nd series of today, this is going to be an exciting one. Orangutan showing us the power from last season. Will they be able to show us what they're made of. As Big this time around, holding the area. Wine is pushed out here. Chloe for two. Gwen does find a trade though. It's a great pick from Chloe, and she's done this so many times. Paranoia comes out here. Aggression from Chloe. Will be punished. Mori pushing out. We love the fact that she's able to consistently play this way from last year till now.
Yeah, they were able to get a pick, but they don't pursue A. I think they're just waiting for information. They're just waiting for somebody from Orangutan to make a mistake before they make a move. But Orangutan, they're playing back. They want to make sure that they win this round. But at least utility placed in A means that they are going to be pushing through, and that knife just confirmed.
Can't use
else.
that.
Yes, full value in the knife, and Scythe already on site. They do get the plant with planting right underneath the heaven, but do they know Capricious on the aggression comes through? Sprays out, has full control of the area. Everyone in hell. It's gonna be really hard, and Ruma does get one more, but the double swing comes through. Very clean round here from Orangutan. You know exactly what they're doing. The hold from Chloe bought a lot of time.
Yeah, I think that was a great call. Two of the IGLs, at least, from Zinni's experience in Ren and with Japeeps' leadership here in Orangutan, it's pretty sustained. And if you have two IGLs remaining for the players, right, it's everything else is covered. Capricious was mainly a ruse, more of a distraction, while the rest of Japeeps and the members of Orangutan, they just cover everything else. I think that was just more of a mistake for Big to just cover all of hell instead of staying in A main. Probably they just heard the threat of Capricious dashing in and they just had to make cover.
Yeah, they didn't have time to do anything to prepare for that post plant. And Orangutan knew how exactly to just aggressively play as soon as the spike went down. And we talked about Capricious' speed last season, and her being picked up for Orangutan might be perfect for the way she plays. Immediately, shock dart out. Ruma, she takes a lot of damage from that. Regardless, Aldrone out. No picks quite yet. Yamori is out immediately. Every single util was popped here. No push out from Big just yet. As Chloe playing this aggressive corner. She has gotten value from these plays, but aggressively, she and Japips push out.
One enemy remaining.
Good. 2 picks for her and 1 each for her teammate. Knife out. Chloe pays for a life. Japips got the knife. These ladies. My god.
Earlier, I think in the first round, Zinni actually had an idea of knifing.
One enemy
The knife was out, but I think there was a pistol kill. But this time, Chloe, the amount, the courage for her to just swing out. I think she was holding a Spectre at that point, right? Or was that the pistol? So they just lost an SMG.
You know what's really funny? Like, if you've seen the dynamics of Orangutan's players, they are very playful. And this really translates into the gameplay.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with Capricious here, peeking out mid, using a Spectre. Well, they know there's a lot of threat here towards Styles. And that smoke will give them cover. But will it protect them against this crossfire for Capricious and as well as Zinni?
But immediately Zinni. Aldrone does find her. Good call for that fragment by Tamiruma. Big pick onto Zinni. No knife means no suppression. Full use of utils available to them. Yamori just still waiting. They know the sound of Capricious in that corner. Spots her out. Immediately dashes out of the way from that stun. Regardless, Yamori already on the side. His teammates not too far behind. Orangutan reconvening.
Yeah, and this time I think they have a lot of time for the retake. They might not have that suppress, but they do have that recon bolt. The Japeeps is sending their way in just a moment. But Iruma, she has a lot of ground to cover here. She will hear all of the footsteps, provide that information to the rest of the big members. But the rest, they're happy and healthy.
Jump and spray!
One enemy remaining.
Oh, so good as Yamori! 3K in the pocket. Aggression will be rewarded from her. I think this is a good round for them. They lost what, two of their rifles in this round. But look at this. It's just the fact that Capricious, because she moved, was able to know that there was someone there and pre-fire.
One enemy remaining.
Well, Yamori had a great concept of that push, right? She was just in the middle, ensuring her flicks will just be on point, her shots will be precise. And I guess that was just really more of a disadvantage of a 3v5 for OGT. Even if there were still utilities to be used, what can Spectres do and Stinger do against all of these rifles?
Yeah. I think it's a good situation in Jump Peeps already with the Odin. Speaking of, we talked about how playful they were earlier. Did you know that Jump Peeps has a particular sandwich store's themed socks?
She has a
Regardless.
sandwich store?
Yeah, sandwich store stocks. I can't say the name. Not sure
Here.
if it's considered a sponsor. Got pictures I can show you later. Regardless, I like this fact that in this situation, Orangutan choosing to play a bit more passive. And Amelie Dorp goes down, and look at the answer coming in from Orangutan. Yamori on the side, but Chloe, huge! Finds red, immediately Yamori does answer. Finds up using Echo sight, some wall bangs from Chloe. Unfortunately does not manage to get someone. Casper on the other side. Nice use of that smoke to punish, but Marsh does find Casper in the end. Luma, full control of lane here. Nice tall flash to come through, but
30
Orphelia with the
seconds
swing. Cat Zini off guard. 1 versus 2. Orphelia
enemy
all
remaining.
alone. Chloe goes down. 30 HP left. They can still get that plant. But regardless, Capricious
Spike planted.
restive dash onto the site. And here comes the Rolling Thunder. Capricious will be relocated. Rather, is positioned here. 2 of the utils reused already, and Orphelia is so very low. Nice little one-way to come through. Pre-fires everywhere. Capricious know where exactly she was. A wallbang just to end the round, to bring them back into the game.
She only saw a bit of the gun, but that headshot just went straight through that wall. Amazing play for Capricious, but quite costly was that round for OGT. But I have to give it to Big Sight. The way that they
enemy
moved
remaining.
towards the B site, it was synchronized. Once that
enemy
recon bolt
remaining.
hit the site, they all pushed forward. It was a waterfall of aggression from them, and it wasn't contained by the rest of the members. Not within the site. I think Chloe did so well in terms of just being a turtle on ground, not moving a muscle. But when it came down to that important duel which she had to win, she didn't really quite get it. This time, Capricious is gonna push.
That's smart, honestly, when you think about it. That knife suppressed, which means that they cannot move off of contact from the turret.
Yeah, that was a great use of utility. One for information and important to disable all of that Killjoy utility.
Mori checks her corners. Again. Great reminder that someone was there. Iruma already pushing out here, and OGT wants to push out. Very aggressive play, and Capricious gets punished. Laving the hold from Iruma on main, rather. Gives her teammates so much leeway as Big immediately gonna rush onto the site. Immediately found onto the corner! Yamori does get one more. Unfortunately, her whiffs come through! Fortunate situation for Chloe. She still gets one in return. And just Fury just to buy some time. Japix drops it. Gets a tag. No kills. Good enough to buy some time as Zini and Japips have to make this happen. 2 on 4. They're able to play this isolation game. It might be good. Maybe a good flick. Movement against that flash. You see that everyone is playing inside hell once again with only Aruma playing outside. No information where they want to go. They want to go from heaven or do they want to go from tree is the question. Buying more time with that aftershock. Haven't moved to it yet, and immediately moving off that contact of the turret. You can't really do anything. The knife does show everyone on the site. Suppression comes through, but here in this situation, are they gonna just save the rifles or just come through here? Ophelia with the first contact finds Zini in the end. Japips, what are you gonna do? Oh, not able to get one more. Ophelia for 3, and she's online.
You know, I quite judge that hell position for the post plant. Why? Because there were 3. If they were against the Rays, I would understand that could be a lot of damage and probably a lot of kills with just the utility. But I think Peeps failed to just really check hell. And maybe if this is the trend for Big Scythe, it works for them at the moment. Just pushing together. You can see that early on during the mid round, wherein they were all clumped together in A short, making sure. But each of them, while they are together, they're holding different angles. And I
Yeah.
think this is one of the best types of quote-unquote bonding experiences when it comes to the team. Because if you're together, you are stronger. And at this point, Big, they know so well how to displace OGT. Now they're on a save.
They clear out logs. Look at that. Capricious took so
You
much
should
damage
run.
from the shock darts. Lockdown comes through. Not pushing out quite yet. They're holding down the line. Yamori, huge, finds a big pick here. Capricious only 30 HP, gets the headshot. Capricious for 2. Aggressive plays for Capricious will be rewarded despite the fact that she was so very low. There's still one more person to worry about. It's going to be Japips. Question now is, how is she going to play this? She can't just go for the guns. Just remember, they are in a gun deficit. They didn't buy. A thrifty would be great. They don't lose 2 guns in that process. Japips, Recon, take it out of the way. The Aftershock will buy more time. I think the idea, or rather the objective for Orangutan right now, is to just go for those very, very important picks. Get those guns out of the way, try to cripple their economy a little bit. Not gonna happen. Oriphilia is just so aggressive. Fits her so well playing this breach.
Yeah, what could they do? Yumori with these
Player
2
standing.
important pickoffs at the start of the round. That's what you call an entry, right? But even with a dash in, the headshot, the rest of the members, they follow her. And when it comes to the stats of Yamori, you could see on paper that her performance in terms of KDA, the ratio is quite low. But you now understand why. Because she's able to get the kills, but at least they get to enter the site. So probably in terms of sustenance, she doesn't really survive for long in the round, but all of her kills are very impactful.
Whoa, look at that recon! Finds 2 players if Capricious punishes. She just took a
player
vigorous
standing.
beaking, but Gwen as well punishes her for that. She gets 2, Oriphilia gets 1 more. Casper. Gonna smoke that out, give her so much space to work with. 2 versus 3. Sorry, 1 versus 3 rather. Can Casper actually pull something off here? She's slow pushed through the front here. She finds Gwen in the end. Nice little respite for her. 87 HP left. She's still very, very healthy. 1 versus 2, and Oriphilia is very low. Oriphilia playing aggressive near the front side, understanding that she can give a lot of value being the first one going down. They have all the crossfires in the world. Flashes out. Casper. It's a tall mountain to climb. She has to play for that isolation. The sprays come out here from Aruma. Gives a lot of space, trying to keep her teammate alive. Casper takes a lot of damage. Flash comes out, and the displacement from the stun, and Zaruma gets 1 more in the pocket.
Yeah, this is where we really have to take a look at the value of mid, right? Space. They're in
Last
Archis.
standing.
Duels supposedly won by OGT with how they are positioned, but immediately if you just flock together, then Big Scythe, they're gonna cast those words. And with that play, right, with 1 remaining player, Casper was so far away. Didn't really have the chance to even touch the spike. And maybe
Yeah.
that really is about the positioning of Big. They always play together. And if OGT doesn't really counter this, they won't be able to at least get these pickoffs because the trades are so fast for Big Scythe.
Yeah. This time around with Chloe, look at that. Chloe and her teammate playing so far in front of A. They have full side control, but look at this aggression clearly being hit once again. B is one of the hardest areas to play, and Yamori reacts to that information, immediately sprays down for Zinni. Immediately, the rampage will be stopped thanks to this smoke, and immediately Capricious with the blades gets 1, gets 2, perfectly well played. 3 already,
1
4.
enemy remaining.
To pick headshot, good thrifty from Sarah Orangutan. And they survive with 4, get those guns and the upgrades.
Yeah, I mean, that isn't an ace, but that was a chef's kiss. She was just waiting in that corner, waiting for everybody else to reposition, stashes
One
away,
enemy
and
remaining.
still gets the
Thrifty.
4th head. Take note, all of these were headshots. Okay, that is precision from Capricious.
So good from Capricious, and you have to remind yourselves that Orangutan really likes playing these very aggressive corners, and they've gotten a lot of value out of it. Now, the idea was it didn't work for the last 2 rounds, but this time around, because of Casper's smoke, it gave them a lot of value because it was a little bit inside, they couldn't see, and by the time they push out, immediately you see Capricious just rush out and go for the aggressive kills.
Yeah, and in terms of the last kill, right? It's not an ace stolen away by Japips, but still clip worthy, guys. I think we will be seeing this in the FSL Twitter page because of how great it is. Now a timeout is in order for Orangutan. But those types of plays are what makes Orangutan great, right? The combination of the utility, the information. But at that point, Capricious, as an individual contributor for the team, it's seen. Now, what we really want to see from Zinni is that ability to support in the system. I mean, we haven't seen that just yet in the 8 rounds. There is an effort to do so, but the utility in comparison to Big Scythe, it's a big difference. And that's what you expect from a KO.
Yeah. One-way smoke. Well done. Just to stop this aggressive plays from Big Scythe. I'm really liking the fact that Big Scythe is just so aggressive, very proactive, and take up space and information as well.
They're slowing things down, but if you take a look at the mini-map, they are still playing together. This time, a split. And Capricious is going to be the one waiting here. An off angle, sticking to the corner. Let's see what happens with that paranoia.
Oh, aggressive play here. Immediately, aftershock. Sorry, fault line comes through, but despite the fact that they are faulted, Zinni with the fragment and Capricious aggression comes through. She gets 2, Casper gets 1 more, and suddenly everything's just falling apart for Big Scythe. They waited for time, but Orangutan's aggression and their proactive plays will be answered. And I think that they have figured out how exactly to play against this aggressive comp from them, and it's a beautiful pincer to fight Aruma in the end.
And this is where Raph is getting it right. The split-second decision. The paranoia is out, ready to be deployed, but immediately pulled back. Use the rifle instead. If they used the paranoia, they could have gotten those 2 kills. But of course, they had no information just yet. But, you know, this is where the right place, the right time really comes into play when it comes to the utility. That paranoia could have been big for Big Scythe.
Get out of my way!
The play of words and aggression here comes through as Yamori with the aggression. Aruma gets 1. Nice tap with the share, but Capricious will answer back. The Pips backline gives info, pushes out. No information as to how many people is pushing out is what is making them displaced for the fake rotate. But for now, immediately Jumpins comes through. Ophelia with the tap, Zinni answers back, but immediately Zinni fragment picks 1 more time. Or Ophelia does not miss, and here comes Capricious. So very well, and Chloe on the other side. It was almost like passing a ball in a basketball game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a runaway, right? Pass the ball, but Chloe gets to shoot and get the kill. Earlier on, when round 8 finished, I was commenting about the utility of Zinni. This time, she shines. In the previous round, she used her ultimate. Everybody else could not throw anything.
Oh,
This time, that Molly, right? That fragment gets a frag. Gets a kill.
She's gotten 2 kills with the fragment already.
Right? Yeah, that's timing.
Oh man, Capricious. I'm not sure what is going on, but Capricious is just playing so aggressively on defense. And it's looking so good because even if she misses, it displaces them. It changes the idea on how exactly they want to execute. And they're going in for mid here.
Yeah, I was gonna say the dynamic really changes. Because Zinni, she's very controlled, right? During the interviews back in the Game Changers Elite, she mentioned she actually really likes playing back and giving the feedback to the team, calling the shots. And now Capricious, maybe she gave the go signal, the green flag. Okay, go ham.
Yeah. Yamori has been able to kick so much space earlier, and this time what they're doing is just playing based off at first contact. Casper gets 1 more. Arithia does get 1. Arithia for 2 already. Great isolation, great play, great reaction to those picks. Regardless, Japip's still holding. Here's the footsteps. 3 versus 2, still very, very doable here. Capricious making sure no one is in the middle from mid. Pips Arithia in the end. Still 1 more there on the site. Partial whiff, but Aruma gets her, or rather Chloe in the end. Still waiting for Jumpins. Jumpins waiting for Capricious! A nice little micro angle she's been playing. So very well done.
I love that you used the reference to basketball. That was another pass.
One enemy
And a
Yes,
great
like every
throw
time.
and the hoop.
I like the fact that they whiff, they give that space, and 1 more person comes from the other side. What read
Yeah, and with Capricious' shot, it was a no ring. It was a great swoosh for her. And now, though, the defense, they're coming alive. Earlier, Big Scythe had a little bit of a lead. Now they can't actually answer back to this aggression.
Yeah. This time around, look at how much just deny Big Scythe on getting onto site. Because they understand and realize their post plans haven't been working out. Aruma one more time has been farming those orbs. She does already have that lockdown. You can see the fragment come through, tries to break it. Does not get it in the end. It was a smart decision by them to actually put that util on top of the box. Everyone has to leave the side. Sprays come out here. Gwen is already on the side. She also has the Hunter Fury. She can just push out. But a little bit of a spray for Yamori. Play aggressive inside of smoke. Does not get punished. Reposition and a nice little upgrade in her hands here as Marche playing underneath logs. Can just work off those smokes if they want to. Nice cross as well. The other members of Orangutan just trying to figure out how to get onto the side. Immediately Yamori for 2. Chloe and Japix does get 1 more Japix for 2 as well. And Hunter's Fury doing those so much work, just clearing them off. And now, look at that. How is it? They're on the side already. A nice little crossfire. Orangutan and Japix do get kills here, but nice, I would say, reposition as well as adaption from them.
Yeah, I mean, with how they adapt within the map, right? They usually would stick together. But I guess my big question is now that Big Scythe is the one defending. It works for attack, right? But will it now work in the defense now that they have to split together? That question is for the panel. Go ahead, Reirachu and Raph. Let me know your thoughts.
Back and forth, 4-4 before Orangutan able to pull away slightly with that 7-5 ref. I mean, we're looking at a couple of key players going into this map. Number 1, we talked about Capricious, Yamori, Aureophilia as well. I think Capricious, she started out about 1-3 in the first couple of rounds, ended that first half 13-6. Aureophilia also 14-8 on the breach, Yamori on the Jet 12-11. How do we feel about these key players' performance?
I mean, if we really talk about basketball here, because they started it, I'm just gonna follow the trend. You know, if it was by direct comparison, then there was a lot of good ball movement. They just really did not force any difficult shots. Basically, you pass the ball, you get a better look. Either you get a layup, you get a 3. So they were really functioning as a unit, and they were being selfless, is what they really had over Big Scythe. I feel like on Big Scythe, they were a little more, I guess, adamant on taking the site. It was super obvious when they invested that Rolling Thunder despite already losing 2 players on an eco. So if they can correct that, then potentially they would still have a very good chance of taking this map away. And of course, this is going to be a tone setter for the rest of the series.
Yeah, I mean, tone setter, we're talking about just how close this match is, right? 7-5 on Ascent. I mean, anything could happen after the swap. But talking about after the swap, we're going to hand the time back over to Tash and Donut.
Here we are once again as we go into the second half. Now, Donut, I'm sure you have a lot to say about it. Let's talk a little bit about the performances of both duelists here, Yamori and Capricious.
Yeah, I mean, their playstyles are very, very different. Yamori steps up for the team, but ensures that they are near her when it comes to the push, right? It might change during the defense, given the duos that we've seen earlier on. She would usually play with the Omen and or with the Sova during these points because she wants to garner information first before she pushes in. Capricious is the other way around. Even without the information, she knows she can handle the duel. She pushes forward. She's very aggressive when it comes to the defense. And I'd love to see this happen now for the attack.
Look at that anti-flash that she has prepared! Moving in with a teammate. We talked about those util usages. Capricious does go down again, but she has done her job. Ultimately, sprays to the smoking Aureophilia. So great on these multi-frag situations. She's so very low, 35 HP, but Casper taking the aggressive play here, pushing out. She took some damage and finds 2 in that process. Orangutan showing them that their aggression and your smokes can be weaponized against you. Ophelia, she's been making big waves in this particular match. Multi-frags for her, pushing forward, but Orangutan this time, Casper with the aggressive play, holding on the line, does not move at all. That's just great trigger discipline from her. Ruma is just so very low. In a 1v3 in this situation, if she's able to isolate, yes, it could work out so well in their favor, but Orangutan staying hidden at all costs. A nice swing might just really punish her, perhaps. Jump down, no one goes down. It's Chloe's frenzy will just mow the lawn.
I loved how Zinni was able to just stay there on site in hell, and Casper was more of the bait, right? She was trying to bait away all of this.
Timing.
And the timing of the kill. Now that she repositions, right? She just baits out. When Aruma is out for the hunt, Chloe swoops in. I guess it's the perfect metaphor for this game. Passing on the ball. Giving the responsibility to the teammates, and we see that they're enjoying. Synergy is great.
Yeah. Love the fact that it's all about communication. I need to back off, and it's almost like they can read each other's body languages at this point. As soon as one person back off, someone comes back in. Great teamwork, great tag. Yamori, jump peek rather. Does get spotted out by Capricious. Immediately Japips takes the line, spearheads this. Takes on the job. Immediately the Paranoia also takes one more away. Capricious aggression is rewarded. Gets one more. Dashes on inside. Good cross. Chloe and Dini from the other side. So many angles, despite the fact that they have so many angles held from 3 because of their aggression and crossfires. The tag team rather just works out so well from the Marsh and Gwen. They can play together. One coming in from tree. Cross. One more person to worry about. It's gonna be Casper. Holding in with the teammates. They get spotted out there. Gwen, what are you gonna do? Casper, play the more aggressive place. Just springs out. And just finds her in the end. Mows her down. Runs out of bullets. 4 HP! Her teammate comes up. Takes the situation into her own hands. No one dies though. But Gwen is very slippery.
Oh no!
Oh, what's happening? They knife again! Jump Pips, not again. Jump Pips, please.
Twice in this game, Peeps holds her knife out to get a kill.
One enemy remains.
And that's also during a bonus. They know that Gwen is already low, right? Casper sprayed her down.
So that's why they were taking their time. They were just setting up for Jump Pips.
Probably that would be the case, right? I mean, but I would really want to ask this question to Zinni if I get a chance. Like, with that playful game during the bonus, do you think it's going to be effective if they're going to be against another team? This time, I think they're just enjoying the fact that they're here, the playoffs,
Yeah. I
but
mean,
still
Orangutan
being
has
so
always been that way.
serious.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're always been
Capricious,
that way.
especially Capricious.
All Capricious just going ham at this point. Love to see it, but the fact that they let Japip's knife is the funniest part, because we know that Japips is the memer of the gang. She's the one with the funniest posts, was trolling around. It's just so in character, and I love the fact that it really shines through the gameplay.
Shadows traveling.
And this time they slowed down. They said,
Go
nope,
on my mark.
this is our bonus round, and we need to win this. You have to get that lead up to 10, or sorry, and then a gap to 5. That's gonna be a perfect Paranoia, or Euphilia actually runs away.
Immediately, Orangutan already on the site. This aggression is doing so well from the Capricious walked into Marsh. Doesn't matter if you throw out that smoke, I will walk into it. Chloe does get one, but Big Gwen! Big win, rather. She
One
gets 2
enemy
HP
remaining.
left. Aggressive plays. Left and right. Ophelia already take up so much value. Zinni just waiting off the line. She still gets Gwen in the end of the day here. Wait. They are gonna push out. Aruma gets her in the end. Still managed to get 3 though before the end of the round, but Big Scythe, perhaps this is what is needed to put momentum back in their hands.
It was a great round though. Before the bonus, right? 3 guns removed for the hands of Big Scythe. But of course, during the final rounds, I mean, moments of the round, right? Zinni was so pressured. And the double peek by Iruma and Euphilia, even if she's played back, right? They know that there's a lot of time to defuse that spike. So either bully or run away.
Yeah, that was the gun deficit round for them regardless, so... I think in that situation, what you want to do is just take as many guns as possible. and they did manage to get what, 2 out of the way, and I think that's great for them. Just kind of whittle down the economy a little bit. Without that firepower might be a bit of a problem. At the same time, because Big Scythe did still go for the Guardian, it's still gonna be a big problem because Yamori, you know that she can pop hits.
Yeah, definitely. Even with a Spectre, we saw that. Sorry, not a Spectre, a Stinger.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, during
Yamori.
the final
She got
round.
3. She got 3 in that round. It was crazy.
So whatever gun that she will be using, we know that she can get the kills. But I think a thing that we haven't noticed actually for this specific map is Ophelia. She's been getting all of the kills, providing assists to the team with all of those flashes, and just running together as a team for these retakes. And I guess that's the reason why for that last round that we saw.
Look at her KD. Like,
Yeah,
I really like the
17 and 10.
fact. Yeah, I like the fact that she's flashing for team. She's giving space. That's what she does as a breach. But the fact that she's self-sufficient enough to play with her own utils is what's so amazing, honestly.
Yeah, and with all of the utility, right, it's been on point. Even during the offense, whenever she would use that fault line, Capricious would be dazed and confused. The Aftershock just leaves everybody else moving away from the entry point so that they have the space to enter towards the site. And I guess it's the same case now for the defense.
Yeah. Really, really liking the fact like Big Scythe, I mean, I think we casted their game last season. And we were talking about their potential. Yes, they didn't really do well last season. But we were saying how we could see that spark in them. The aggressive plays, Yamori especially from what we saw last season. And it's just translating so well into this new team roster that they've put together.
Yeah, and if you have Big Brain or Ophelia, you have everything that you need. With Aruma as well, I'm not sure if she's played before, but this is the first time that I'm casting a game of hers. She's been so good with all of those flanks, also all of those team
The
plays.
holds. Yeah. I think that she and Chloe, like back then, I would say that Chloe was one of the best sentinels here in Asia Pacific, how she holds. And now I think that Eruma might be close to her level at this point. She's so good at wasting time and so good with making sure that she doesn't miss those headshots, especially if she's holding.
Yeah, the awareness for her as well. There were a lot of times that she got kills because she was unnoticed, right? But I guess
Yeah.
when it comes to unnoticed, that would be Chip Pupes because she has her knife out and she gets a kill from behind.
Yeah, I mean like I'm really liking the fact that for Orangutan that's taking their time to really just have fun with every game. And I think this is also a mental thing that you mentioned before. Like if you get knifed 2 or 3 times in a row, wouldn't that bother you? But the thing about Big Scythe is that despite the fact they got knifed twice, they were still able to come back and just kind of shake it off. Really liking the mental fortitude for the team here. At the same time, those multi-frags, I mean, we talk about multi-frags. And Ophelia has been huge with those. But Gwen as well.
Yeah, I mean, Big Scythe, we were talking about this offline, right? Off of the broadcast when we were trying to study them. The question really is, if they're a persistent org when it comes to game changers, will they now have a persistent team roster for them to get the points, qualify for elite? And I guess this is a good look for them. They finished 6-0 in the group stage, while Orangutan, while they might have Capricious, Chloe, and Japeeps, they finished 5-1. But of course, that loss was against RRQ Kaguya.
RQ Kaguya's team roster is stacked. So, personally, do not blame them. But the fact is, I mean, we were talking about Big Scythe and how they would gel with each other. Oh, okay, let's have a little date here, Gelato. Thank you very much, producer, for that.
Yeah,
I always wanted to see how it looked like.
Hey, can I have 1 scoop of strawberry, please?
I know, I took the last scoop. Sorry, friend. I also have a
Okay.
strawberry allergy. But, coming back to these teams, I think that
Yeah.
I think like what a lot of our questions we talked about split one as well as the remaking of each roster is how much time does each team need to find the chemistry with each other? And I think Big Scythe was also one of the teams that we had a lot of question marks on because a lot of them were they were technically puzzle pieces from so many different regions, so many different teams. But coming into this game, like despite them not having a lead on Orangutan, who I think most of their core players are still the same from last year, they're playing very well. I'm thinking of that maybe perhaps they have trained and maybe perhaps all of their communications and playstyles gel with each other, which is why it works out very well in their favor.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess that was the biggest question when it comes to the previous form of Big Scythe, right? Some
Mm.
people would shine, but then the rest wouldn't really follow through or move forward together with those beaming with radiance. And I guess that was the biggest question that we had right back then for Big Scythe. But now that they're seeming to create more of those wins, small wins within these rounds, big W's for those retakes. I guess
Oh
they
yeah.
have now that potential is coming in. Before we noted that they have the potential, and now I think that potential is here.
I when we look at how Big Scythe plays on attack just now, I like the fact that they're very flexible. In a lot of situations, they're okay to run down main, A main, or even B main in this situation. There's no big problem for them to do that. But I'm really liking the fact that sometimes they couldn't get main, a nice little position, and they go toward mid. And the use of utils give them a lot of like a sort of a wormhole situation where they're able to take so many parts of the map. And also the fact that for Yamori, I think she's very careful. We talk about Julius kind of like overheating and going crazy, but she checks every single corner. And on top of that, Yamori also has someone close to her, at least to trade out. And we talk about buddy system all the time. Big Side has that. Yamori may be a little bit far away. I think in the beginning we did see them a little bit more separated, but after a while we start to see them start to gel and play together, understanding the fact that we need to go for those trades, we need to go for multi-frags, we need to be able to at least someone bait out and someone else get those maybe 1 or 2 kills. And this understanding has given them a lot of value, especially for Aureophilia, because whenever her teammate goes down, she swings out, she gets a multi-frag 2 or 3 kills.
Yeah, and I guess that's the learning, right, from her experience, from her being really that support agent for this team that makes a big difference. And sometimes, right, when you take a look at the duelists, you look at their KDA, but sometimes we forget to tell the story of who actually enabled that duelist to enter. And I guess most of that responsibility is care of like Yamori. Oh, sorry, for Aureophilia, for Yamori's skills, the information given to Yamori by the Sova. So there are a lot of things to consider when it comes to performance. And with how Aureophilia is playing, I guess she's one of the on the rise players and agents. We didn't get to see much of her during last year, and I'm excited to see her rise again.
I'm really just honestly, there's a lot of questions to come through here, but I think the biggest problem for Big Scythe is how exactly do you want to deal with Capricious's speed? How exactly are we going to deal with Capricious's aggressiveness? Because when you talk about Yamori, it's more of her reacting to the utils or the information her teammates ever able to set up for her. But for Capricious, there are a lot of situations she just sort of goes ham. It's as though she just turns up her mind and just does whatever that she has to do, and her teammates just works from behind. And I think for Orangutan, letting Capricious do Capricious things has been giving them a lot of value.
Yeah, definitely. What more if there is that support, that assistance from the rest of the team? And I think there was a round there that we saw during their defensive round that Zinni was able um to duo with her to do these amazing plays. And it wasn't just a Capricious thing, right? The space was taken by Capricious, but Japeeps, Casper, and Zinni, they were all able to take the kills. And maybe this is for them to be able to win this map of Ascent despite it being Big Scythe's map, it might be that. It might be the gel that Big Scythe currently has when it comes to the utility. If that's applied to Orangutan, they might have a big edge.
Yeah. Really want to talk about Chloe and Eruma as sentinels here, because if you remember how Chloe was before she joined, when she was Enigma, she was actually their Sova player, the initiator. And then as soon as she moved to Orangutan, like she took a step back onto Sentinel. And I feel like I'm really liking the fact that she is playing that because she's technically an unmovable boulder. She's good at wasting time, she's good at retakes at the same time. It's been really good in terms of her lurks as well. But for Chloe, she doesn't really move around. Her style has always to just hold. It's very different at Ruma. It's Aruma, I would say that her style is more of like lurking, moving around the map, but just taking space as a Killjoy. I'm liking how flexible Aruma is. So these two players as Killjoys are just great, but two different playstyles. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I definitely agree that they have two different playstyles, but I see some similarities, right, with how they hold angles, with how they are able to at least play together with the team in order to get that round win. But I guess going into this talk of head to head, given that the only difference for this composition is Zinni as the KO and Oreophilia as a breach, right? There is a lot of differences, even if there are four agents in the same map. With Capricious being so aggressive and so forward as a jet, and Yamori being more of that methodic jet that have her she has her defenses up actually
Yeah.
during these rounds. And then at the same time, Japeeps and Gwen, you could see the difference. Japeeps so playful, but still can be able to provide that information, all of those utilities for the team, and Gwen just being very stellar with all of those assists, right? I think there was
Yeah.
a round wherein Orangutan and all of the players, I think 3 or 4 players were detected by a recon bolt. And those
Hmm.
are things that are they're very important from all of these players. Big difference though in terms of the play style for each of the individual if we talk about head to head.
I'm really liking the fact that for Orangutan and Big Scythe, if you look at the compositions, the only difference here is just rather the initiators, whether or not you want to go for a KO or a breach. Now, I think that throughout this year in particular, we started to see a more breach picks again, compared to the end of last year, because I think there was a lot of priority onto the KO. Now, the idea is, I think because of the breaches, I would say cyberbully potential. So I like to call it that. I don't know why, but it's so suffocating when you play, oppressive rather, when you play against a good breach. And Aurophilia definitely delivers that. Playing very close, teammates just swinging off the utils, and even if she doesn't have teammates to play off her, the fact that she's able to just swing out with her utils, whether it be the concuss, whether it be the flash, it's gotten her so many picks at the same time as a player. And I think that because of this, I think this is why Orophilia works with Big Scythe in terms of their game style and gameplay, is rather the speed. And I think that this may just be her best, I would say, composition yet when it comes to the roster. Now, if you look at Zinni, I wouldn't say she's aggressive, but she's more with her, like it's always about that utility usage, but rather more of how Zinni's usage is very different. Like Aurafilas is more for that aggressive play, but Zinni's rather, are we gonna zone out someone with the fragment? Are we gonna suppress to get info and just take sight? What can I do with my null command to disable them? So it's two very different game styles and what they can do with this composition. But as personally for me, the idea of Zinni staying alive and making sure she can provide support by disabling the team has given Orangutan a lot of value. It's very different to Big Scythe, where Orophilia is the one trying to make plays and move in with the team.
Yeah, definitely different. I guess when you said that Zinni uses her utility differently from Oreophilia, I immediately had flashbacks of the previous rounds wherein Oreophilia used a stun, pushed forward together with Yamori, while Zinni actually just threw in a flash, and then again a fragment when it was
It's high
confirmed they were
flashes,
pushing
right?
forward. Yeah, and then what she did was, instead of moving forward, she actually moved away and waited for her teammates, and that's the big difference, right? If you have that IGL mindset and you really have imprinted yourself as an initiator, you would want to save all of your utilities for the things that matter most.
Yeah.
So during the time, it was to slow things down. Then she did, and they won the round.
Yeah, I'm liking the fact that whenever Zinni throws out a flash, Capricia's already turned the other way And then immediately she reacts. And I think that because of that, I would say speed coming through here, Zinni has given a lot of, I would say, support for Capricious. That yeah, Capricious can just go crazy without Zinni. But in a lot of situations, as the rounds came through, you start to see that team play come in. You start to see them get comfortable. You see Zinni throws a flash and then Capricious comes out with the anti-flash, and immediately she gets 2 or 3 frags. Japips has been huge in terms of just pushing forward, because if you see how Japips plays as the I would say the Sova, what's so great about her is just very different than what you expect from Initiator, who's playing on the site with the spike. She actually pushes out there. She actually pushes and plays with her teammates as they take out so much space toward Link, toward Market, and I think this is the reason why Japips is so high in terms of frags, because she's not afraid and also very, very confident in her gunplay.
Yeah, I think there's a big difference now with how Japeeps is playing. She used to play a duelist back in her previous team. But this time, right, if you were to be a Sova, be aggressive at the same time, that is a deadly combo. And Japeeps is one of those types of players. But of course, you will see more of Japeeps, her team, OGT, and as well as Big Scythe in a moment, because we will be taking a short break. Don't go away. We will be right back. And we're back to the ball game here in Game Changers APAC series. So we hit a little bit of a bump there, but we will be rolling back the game, right? We finished earlier when we were having a podcast, Dash Bunny and I. We finished at 96, but we will be rolling back the game because somebody disconnected. So to ensure, of course, the viability of the league, we need to start in 95. So, Tash Bunny, we had a lot of thoughts about the team, the differences, the similarities of them, but now that we are going to be the second half, right? OGT is the one attacking, Big Scythe is the one defending. How do you think this will now pan out? Because in terms of the buys, right, Orangutan, this is their bonus.
Yeah, for Orangutan, I think that if they're able to just whittle down the numbers of their guns, it would be great. But immediately the smokes come out, and Marche this time with the sprays, despite the fact that G is actually flashed out. It doesn't really matter. Capricious with 11 HP gets a nice little upgrade with the Bulldog. Regardless, still has utils to play with. Now Chloe, so good with the holds, understanding that someone might be flanking here. Zorophilia with the rifles. Push out through 3. Casper still holding underneath the sightline this time around. Not aggressive, took a little bit of damage here. Ophelia tries to go aggressive, but Japip's aggression will give her all the value in the world. We always talk about Spectres, and they're playing from this angle is just so smart. Still holding. Really catches Chloe and Casper offline. No one noticed that she would actually be coming in from main, but the idea is this double hold from Tree gives them all the value in the world. They still survive with 3, and unfortunately for Big, they don't have a single gun left.
Yeah, that fast peek out for Capricious is actually, I think, the factor that won them that round. Yomori as well, not quick to check the corners. Haruma had the possibility of winning this round, but at that point, right, when 3 people will be peeking at you, it's going to be quite difficult to redeem that round. And now OGT, we know Capricious to be quick on her feet, and as she dashed in, she might be able to show that this time in the B site. They hide away from all of the utility first, not to give their positions away. Well, let's see what will happen here in mid.
Slower pace coming in here from Orangutan, changing the way they play. We always talked about how explosive Capricious can go. Really just clears out the corner with that. The util pushes them back. Checking Cubby. Zinni clears out the corner with the fragment. Capricious still holding. No movement yet. Understanding that for the side of Big Scythe, they get value from these thrifty rounds. They get those headshots with the sheriffs at the same time. And with Gwen, we've seen her get 3 kills in a row with the Stinger.
And they're going to be slowly moving towards mid, but there's an alarm bot, so that's going to trigger Gwen to probably peek out. Good thing there's a smoke to cover them. with that
Here comes the
information.
explosive plays. Come through immediately. Capricious did get stopped. Running onto the site. Just pushing through. Capricious finds Iruma. These run and guns have been phenomenal for them. Just caught them off guard, swinging out. Just no mercy and no hesitation. It's like Orangutan. If they want to go aggressive and they want to go for execute, they will. Marche is coming from the other side. This area from Chloe just finds so much value. Very close by. Nice little crossfire with Capricious and Pips. Nice choke from Market makes it so hard for the guy outside.
30 seconds
Yeah.
left.
And if you're on a save round and they close the doors on you, right, you don't really want to be wasting all of those bullets for the stinger. You want to be using those for the kills. Because that door was closed, it bought them a lot of time. And when they were ready, repositions now for Japeeps, for Capricious there by lane, while Chloe just gave them all of the information, those footsteps, the breaking of the door.
This is gonna
Great
be fun.
relaying of information for Orangutan.
Though it seems like that tech pause probably sort of killed their momentum a bit. Not the same momentum as before, not longer fast gameplays, but it doesn't really matter. Pops those utils. All the nano swarms are now out of the way. Capricious already on the site. 2 in the boathouse in the backside. Both of them coming in together. We also have the anti-flash coming through here as the push out. No pushes yet. Aruma, but Capricious Chloe is ready for the band-aid call. Casper.
Spike
There's gonna be
planted.
someone playing inside logs, doesn't matter who here. It's a little bit hard, especially as Yamori is playing that op. It's gonna be very difficult to come through. Casper does find Aurifilia in the end. That smoke, weaponized by her. Doesn't matter whose smoke is gonna be, an Orangutan will take that value. Marche coming in already from the other side. Yamori so very low. Casper goes down, but Pips. Great trade. And now, Orangutan pushes forward. They know exactly what Yamori is. No mercy. They want to get the op out of the way. Japips again! No! Japips! Are you serious?
Third time's the charm, and I don't know why she's able to get away with those types of kills. She knows that Yamori is already low. She even has the op, but at that point, gosh, that movement as well. I mean, for you to be able to achieve that knife kill, you don't just have to run forward, right? You don't have to just press W. The mix of the movement also makes it achievable for her to get those knife kills.
And she also understands it's an op. As long
Yeah,
as you move, it's not gonna hit you. That's confidence.
definitely. If ever she gets killed, for sure there will be a redemption kill for the team.
Yeah. Now, the lockdown is out. We'll give a lot of space onto A site. They're already pinging where Yamori is holding. Capricious takes so much damage. She does not care. Playing inside the smokes. Wants to weaponize it. Very sneaky corner. She's playing here. Look to your right. Look to your left. It's a cross. I'm not sure they split spot her out. Immediately runs out of the way. Will be spotted out by that alarm bot. No damage go away. And she also has the blades to come through at the same time. Flash out. Aruma finds her. Chloe trades. And Ophelia finds her. Yeah, Ophelia for 2. Once again, massive, big, multi-frags as Gwen just swings out. Understanding that someone playing inside of hell. Japips alone inside of wine. 3 people picking out. And they punish her for that knife and said, nah, not again, man.
Yeah, I like the timing of that push forward towards A main. If you were Japeeps, you wouldn't really know what to do. Where do you aim? Who do I kill first? But I guess the biggest win for that round for Big is that coordination. They knew that if they just steer clear of that lockdown, then they are able to garner space. And then when they had the perfect chance to do so, they pounced. And when they pounced, everybody dropped down all at the same time. And Big, that was too much for OGT to handle.
And also the fact that they're understanding that every smoke can be a player of Orangutan inside. Orangutan will push through it, and this time because they don't push through the smoke and they're holding the smokes together, they managed to punish Capricious just now. And these are the minor adjustments that Big has been doing every single time a round ends. That understanding, regardless as Orangutan stuck at 12 here, they need to figure out a way. They need to solidify their lead. They are on the attack, and Ophelia immediately spots out Capricious onto mid-site. going toward the area of garden onto tree. Now, if you look at in terms of utility here, Aruma, Marsh, as well as Oraphilia has those big impact ultimates. So easy to reposition, just hide the map, lock down to just displace them, and the Rolling Thunder just for the rush.
They're probably saving that for the retake, right? Whichever site they would choose, it's gonna be the breach here towards A, and then
30 seconds left.
Aruma for the B site. So they now
But
they
here-
push forward. Ooh, a great counter lockdown to that push.
Counter lockdown and also knives as well for Capricious at the same time. Capricious taking up so much space here. Understand it. Unfortunately, none of her knives will be hitting. She takes up some space. She's all the way inside of Pizza. Has to leave the area. Regardless, the plant does come through. Yamori denies it. Capricious does find Marsh in the end. The Pips, no time at all. They have to make this work good for the kills instead. Since there's no plant, Big survives another round.
It's quite a challenging round for OGT, right? They tried to push in. Lockdown was placed. You can't really move a muscle anymore at that point. So that's the reason why OGT will call a timeout. Before the previous round, Capricious did everything in order to get that space for that plant. But at that point, they had to really not get contact of the lockdown, or else, of course, Ruma would be having a great time getting all of these kills. And that quick snap as well, that adaptation of, with how Big Scythe did adapt towards that round, they aren't still letting go of that win. They know that even though Orangutan, they're already at match point, Big Scythe, they still have something to offer. And I guess for this round, it's Oreophilia's Rolling Thunder, it's Marsh's from the shadows as well. So I guess Big Scythe for this round, if they continue that type of play wherein they stick together as a team during the retakes, just like they did 2 rounds ago, they have a chance in stepping down on an OGT. It's just a matter of consistency.
Yeah, this time around, Orangutan, no ultimates on their side. So, a Big Scythe, they have those big impacts. Just now, Aruma only used one utility, which was just the lockdown. And it displaced the whole members of Orangutan. Here comes a counter shadow as well at the same time here. Marsh on their side immediately sprints out from the smoke criminal play here. Immediately reacting off the information Gwen gave to her. Not looking so good right now for Orangutan. Despite the fact that they're on 12, they've been 12 for so many rounds here. And this is the question. Mentally, where are they at?
Blocking sight.
Blocks come through and smokes as well. Immediately Capricious cannot hold onto angle. Reposition. Yamori holding on mid. As peeps as well. Throws out some shots. But no one, and they're making sure that no one is going to walk into that crosshair.
Yeah, for sure. Out of all of the guns here, that is one that you don't want to cross at all.
Blocking
The
sight.
Marsh with a big brain play as a smoke criminal now still has a chance to shine. Capricious is very low, not unless Chloe gets the kill.
It's so huge right
One
now,
enemy
but then Big Scythe makes it big once again. Look at how much value they've gotten just from its 2 kills from Marsh. How they played it is just so clean.
Is this the comeback of a lifetime, though?
I mean, we always talk
love
about the
that
comeback, right?
play.
111 from Orangutan.
Our carrier is killed.
Could be.
B. Enemy
But at that
remaining.
point, I think it was the other way around. Orangutan
yeah.
was the one at 11, so probably it's a taste of their own medicine when it comes to the comeback. Because if Big has to play for OT here, it's 4 straight rounds and then some. So, again, consistency is going to be key here for Big Scythe.
Oh, Big Scythe!
Spike down A.
Lots of value with the recon, and you really want to challenge this area.
Placing swarm grenade.
Up kill.
Swarm grenade out.
It's just so unfortunate in the situation. On top of that, it's Zinni. Without Zinni, the knife, it's gonna be a little bit hard for them. No suppression.
They're just waiting with one down. No Zinni, but there is still Japeeps. She has her Recon Vault intact, so she can use that for information. I think she's gonna go ahead and throw in, and then Capricious will dash in. At least they have the smokes. I think that's the most important part of this push.
There's a fast push come through. Capricious once again. Aggression will be denied. The util usage from Big is just so huge. Hunter's Fury from Gwen as well. Tags out one player. Capricious taken out of the way. Regardless, they're already at the site. Japips holding the line, clearing out the area. But here comes the Rolling Thunder. Chloe does fight Gwen in the end. Chloe for 2 with the turn march on the backside. Band-aid play. Picks off 2. Japip stops the rampage from going on. Still doable. 1 versus 2 here. They have the spike, but they all just peek out one by one. Eruma finds one. With 8 seconds to go here, wall bangs come through. Orifila has no clue where exactly Japips is. Spots her in the end. Spike is down. Have to buy some time. There's still one more thing to worry about, which is the fault line. Use out. No more utils, and Japips saves the day. A very close round, but they get it 13-8.
Well, we were talking about clutches and consistency. I guess that is gonna be now in Japeeps' area. Imagine being the sole player available, because Marsh, she killed them all because of that Rolling Thunder. Or Euphelia, with that great util, targeted everybody else but Japeeps.
I think in this situation, Japips has been huge. Look at Chloe. She's just so very cute, so happy. Love her enthusiasm, but it looks like the girls are really having a lot of fun there. It took a lot of mental fortitude as they were stuck on 12 for quite a long time. I'm really happy that they're able to make it back. But this is a lot of things that come through here as Big. I think that Big took a little too long to come online, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, during the first half, I guess it was quite equal. We finished with a 75. It means that it all boiled down to the timing, the use of utilities. But when it comes to OGT's attack, right, whenever Capricious would dash in towards the site, especially during the first 2 rounds, a pistol and then their force buy, it seemed like it was already a dead end at that point. Until, of course, Big Scythe showed us a little bit of their consistency, them playing together, their bonding experience as a team. And I guess that's something to watch out for, especially during the next map, which is Haven.
I'm really liking the fact that that utility will always have a follow-up. Is the fact that understanding that Marsh was inside of a smoke and having Gwen throw out the utility and then Marsh immediately spraying out is also something that is to be considered here. We always talk about like how they are individually talented, but what about their macro play? How do they play together? How do they chain those utilities? And it felt like after a few rounds, after understanding what Orangutan can put on the table, it's really they have this understanding on how exactly to use the utils. The timing has been good, and they're not too, I would say, trigger happy at using them all at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the trigger discipline, it's really greatly focused on Big Scythe's level, and then at the same time, the aggression for the team of Orangutan. It's 2 different things, and I couldn't really say that we could compare both of these teams, but I guess that's up to the panel to decide whether or not, right, what were the favorable decisions that made OGT win, and at the same time, what are the points of improvement for Big Scythe. So, panel, amazing panel, let me know your thoughts.
Thank you, Donut and Tash. What a map number 1 to start off our second series of the day. Orangutan looking on track to close out that map at 13-5, right? When they were at the 12-5 mark, but then allowed Big to take those back-to-back 3 rounds before finally closing it out at 13-8. Raph, what did you think at the end of that map number 1? Did you believe in the Big Scythe comeback? What did it look like?
Well, to be fair, before I talk about the Big Scythe comeback and the belief of both these teams to really give it their all, I think OGT did such a great job of using that pause the moment they saw Big Scythe start to garner that momentum. And they basically just all agreed that, guys, let's take a step back, let's reassess where we're going wrong. And again, just to emphasize how important the problem-solving part of this game is just one of those things where I think Tosh Bunny and Donut really mentioned there were a lot of band-aid solutions, but man, they never ran out of band-aids.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we're going to take a look at the stats and the scoreboard coming out of that map number 1. It's going to be Europhilia versus Capricious. I think pretty expected on both sides, and just, the fact that no one player, let me just check real quick, managed to go over 300 in terms of ACS just really shows how much of a tight and close game it was for both of these teams. I mean, Capricious just rocking that jet 21 and 10 on the KD. Yamori as well. And we were talking about just a bit of a different jet play style. I was playing a bit more for the team, is kind of why you see like Orophilia, the one with the biggest numbers for the big SCYTHE squad. Is there anything that jumps out to you?
Well, March, despite the fact that she did not get too much volume with her fragging, she still had so much impact. Again, her smokes were super well timed. I feel like on the side of Big Scythe, we have mentioned that this is relatively newer in comparison to a lot of our teams, so those growing pains have fairly been obvious. And once again, we will digress. It is great that it's happening now in Open 1, so the rest of the year they can just continue to build upon that foundation. But other than that, I feel like one of their more key play styles that have enabled their more frontline heavy style is committing that breach in more aggressive stances, enabling both Orophilia and Yamori to be, well, it's again the fragging though. That's why we saw them on top of that scoreboard, right? But I feel like the biggest problem here was that Orangutan was just so good at maneuvering the map, with the rotator being so committed on enabling the jet. There was just that lag time that Orangutan loved to abuse.
Man, if Japip's knife kills don't make it into the highlight reel, I'ma throw hands.
Oh no,
There were
please
so
don't.
many. Come on, we've got to put at least one. I mean, if they don't make it into the highlights, they've got to make it into like her TikTok or her YouTube at least, right? This is the sort of content that like people like on TikTok. Oh, Chloe, she's so happy. She actually plays
Of
like with her
course.
monitor really low, which is a bit rare. I think like she has a slanted, very close monitor, but I think like people usually have it higher. Hers is like really pretty, like touching the table. I don't know, man. I feel like I always feel like you want to like change your setup up to like see how it works, but yeah, Capricious going to bag the MVP to no one's surprise. 38.6% for the headshot percentage, 23.8 first blood percentage as well, and just 161.8 damage per round, showing that she's at least getting 1 kill per round. So just putting out a lot of very big numbers. I think this was the largest question, right, coming into Orangutan versus Big Scythe in this series, was just how much Capricious would be able to step up for this team, right? Because Orangutan, we're saying they've had so many roster changes. This time they managed to pick up Capricious, which is the kind of the key piece of their roster, and it just looks like it's paying off huge. Capricious just stepping up big and looking like she's managing to fill the shoes of Orangutan's former IGL Sway.
Absolutely. It's been such a wonderful display for everybody, and we have to highlight how difficult that role actually is, because you are the entry frag. Sometimes you get to become the glorified recon dart, and her to pop off like that, find the frags, and be the absolute spearhead. Hey, that's true. You know, that's the life of a duelist. Okay, guys, the play is I'm gonna die. That's just how it is sometimes.
The play is I'm going to dash in and try to be in a position where you can trade me. So please, team, please trade me while I entry. That's kind of the life of. Oh, you're a duelist main too. Yes, that is. I mean, I cannot compare myself to you because like you're actually duelist. I just like to play duelist. But anyway, guys, that's going to be it for us for now. We're going to go for a very short break before we find out, in the words of Tash Bunny, whether Big Gwen can make it a big win to push this series to a map number 3. See y'all soon. Hey guys, welcome back to series number 2 of the VCT Game Changers APAC series Open 1 between Orangutan and Big Scythe after OGT's close 13-8 in map number 1. This time around though, map 2 is gonna be on Haven. Raph, how do we think this will affect the next map, if at all?
Man, it really is worrying that it is going to be the home turf for Orangutan. This is their pick if I'm not mistaken, so I feel like their power levels are going to be so high up, and they're just going to be supercharged, especially with the momentum they took away from Big Scythe, which I believe just had problems addressing the layers of set play and just strategy in general for Orangutan. So we might just actually see a new look.
Yeah, I agree, because I think in the earlier couple rounds of map number 1, right, the thing about map number, even though we did have the rollback, it was kind of a while back, but if we cast our memories back to the first 8 rounds of that map 1, they were 4-4. It was super back and forth, like one side won one. There was no like snowball at all, and it did look as if both teams took a couple of rounds to warm up and to like get the jitters out of the way before Orangutan was able to be like, you know what, we're just gonna win, and then they just all systems go towards the end. Talking about the momentum that you brought up as well on a map such as Haven, where momentum can play such a big part if they do make those decisive decisions, I think it would be pretty crucial. And as you mentioned, Haven is Orangutan's pick for that map number 2. So we're kind of thinking, you know, Capricious, she already showed up pretty big in map number 1. We've got high hopes for her for map 2. What do we think?
High hopes indeed. I mean, Japips really did step up and basically had to be the closer for Orangutan. And we actually had so many moments on the players of Big SCYTHE. Again, March is just so fantastic on those plays that she did around her smoke. Again, a true playmaker. Unfortunately, Orangutan was just so quick to snuff it out and basically take that into their data bank. Now, what I meant earlier too by the third layer, or rather just Big SCYTHE losing on the layers of adjustment, because usually if we really put it down on the simplest terms, you either take the site fast or slow, and a lot of teams are going to be guessing from just those two, right? So 50%. And now you add a third layer. Are they going to split? Are they going to essentially fake? So with all that being said, it effectively doubles the layers. I know the math doesn't add up, guys. I talk for a living. I don't do numbers for a living. Not all the time, at least. But
The math
you get the point here. Yeah.
Yeah, we do. And talking about your point that I got, I wanted to also ask about the agent composition that we may or may not see coming into this map number 2, because as you said, like Japips is a big piece of the puzzle for Orangutan, because they play that Jet and that Sova combination very well. Map number 1, we saw almost a mirror matchup, except that, you know, one side had KO. So right now, and then when you look at how Big SCYTHE played their combo, it was their Breach as well as their Jet that they had as their main combination, and then Orangutan was their Sova and Jet. Now we're on Haven. Some of these agents are also still viable. How do you think, like, just this type of synergy, this type of comp, how do you think it will play out for map 2?
Well, so I also mentioned earlier, thank you for bringing that up, by the way, just synergy in general. It did look like Big SCYTHE was leaning towards setting up their duelist with Oreophilia just being super close behind her. But as I mentioned, that does pose the problem that the rotator spot is going to be a little bit weaker. But your point of contact is that going to be much more sharper. So Breach Jet is definitely going to make a high chance of coming back in this map, I would say. I think the raise is going to come out from the both sides too, especially when you don't necessarily want to take as much direct contact up until you genuinely have to, especially when you have the double blast packs and the nerfed bot. Still very serviceable, right? And I wonder what else, because an interesting stat that I can think of today, or at least from all the games we've casted, I don't think a KO has won a map today. I think the team that has picked the KO has just not found the right timing to maximize that suppress.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point that you bring up, right? Because I think for Open 1, we've talked a couple of times today also that the teams might not really have had a lot of time to really synergize certain agents in their comp. And we know that in Valorant, there aren't that many agents yet, but some agents are a lot easier to play than others, right? When we looked at the stats from map number 1, you're saying like, oh, Omen, you know, like Marche, like it's what didn't have the best stats, but I think Omen is also a bit trickier to try and synergize with your team early on compared to like say a Sova, right? Sova, like you just play around the cooldown of your dart, and then before you join in, you're like, guys, I'm gonna drone. It's really simple. Whereas Omen, you need to like communicate. Oh, when is the smoke going down? Hey, do you need me to smoke this for you? That sort of thing. So that
True.
might be a reason why this time around, though, the Asian composition. Ooh.
Ooh. Well,
Wow.
actually,
Okay,
I will
again.
double back.
Yeah.
We have the breach. I think I did make a mistake there. We did see a KO win a map, and that was the previous map. I feel like it's just my precognitive bias that I'm just, as an analyst, I'm not a big fan of KO picks. I feel like they're just super niche despite their general skit, so on and so forth. But with the mirror match in play here in Japips on that Sova, we know how deadly she can be. Is this the second time around? Is this level going to stay consistent with her, or are we going to see some sort of resurgence on the side of Big Scythe, right?
Yeah, I'm just a tiny bit disappointed that we're not going to see that raise. I know, like, the patch that we're on, like, the boombot has been nerfed down to 5 seconds. Also, there are some areas, like, you know, A long, that you cannot really just send your boombot down anymore. Stuff like that. So, it's a bit of shame that we're not going to see raise just yet. But, guys, that's going to be enough for us for now. The action don't stop, because here to bring y'all all of that sweet, sweet action are going to be, once again, Donut and Tash.
Still waiting? Okay, so we're just starting our second map of the day between Orangutan and Big Scythe. Now the question begs here, as we go into Orangutan's map, is whether or not we are going to be seeing this go to a map number 3.
Yeah, this is gonna be what's defining now Big Scythe, this big play, basically. But Capricious, we all know her to be quick and fast, and she's already here in the C site. And the plant comes in, and there's no contestation for Big Scythe at this point. There
Look at
is
how
a
much space
huge
they
flag,
have.
though, for Yamori.
Yeah, but look at how much space they have held in their hands. C and C long. No one inside of garage though, so definitely don't have control of that. But ooh, Yamori straight to the head, jump pips for 2. Big plays coming out here. That flash from her teammates doing so much work. Aruma tries to equalize the situation. Aruma, last person standing alive as Japips, and her teammate will come out. Japips 3 in the pocket. Now,
Scanning ahead.
the win conditions for Japips, at least from what I talked to her on Twitter, is met. Do you want to know what it is?
What?
She said that she was wearing the socks I was talking about. She had the sandwich from the particular store as well. So you think it's a buff?
Yeah, it is the
Yeah?
sandwich buff for her. For sure, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you are gonna play a game, 3 games max, you have to get a snack. So,
Sustenance.
sandwich buff,
Scanning ahead.
yes. For your peeps.
Oh yeah. I'm loving the fact that ooh, Recon does catch up, Capricious, if you saw. But this is what I talk about in terms of Orangutan, right? Whenever there's one person moving back, there's one person watching forward here, and the sprays come out. No one hit just yet. Giving up that space.
But Big, they play back now. They have seen Capricious, but they didn't see Japeep. So for them, that could be a huge threat. And maybe
Here.
something that could turn around the odds for them to win it, even if they do have just pistols available for them.
Yeah.
So they wanted their best to win this round, but it seems as if they're using utilities to try and stop the plant.
Yeah, they're just buying a lot of time here. And because they have the dead advantage, B is perfect. A lot easier to hold post plant, but remember, Yamori does not miss those headshots. Capricious eats up so much damage. Aruma does get one shot here, and Capricious with the run and gun. Chloe as well for 3 in the pocket. That spray is insane. Yamori does stop her in the end. Capricious watching on the other side. Japips from main can play off those picks, but will be pulled into the black hole.
And that is just unfortunate, right? At least they were able to get 2. Punish now the economy of Orangutan, not saving all of those weapons, but at least this time they're able to buy up. In terms of the positioning, right, Japeep's just playing back, and then the rest here towards C-Link. I think they were planning a pincer, so even if Yamori is able to get it to half, I think she wouldn't really last that long, so OGT, they're able to buy up, but Stinger's use of the ghost that they picked up, maximizing the resources at the moment.
Yeah, playing those close angles is good. That's exactly why they decided to go into A side quickly onto the side. Ophelia has no clue where they are. Just brace from both angles for Capricious. Is just so good. Aruma gets one, but is traded out there. Eventually, Japips has a little upgrade in hand. Plant comes through. Look at the amount of Debla smokes around. It makes it so hard for Big Side to really pinpoint them where exactly they're gonna be. Yamori spots out someone at Graffiti. Answers with the gravity well. Not allowing them to push or to see, making sure the hits stay out of the way there. And because of that recon, Yamori did get spotted out here. Chloe and Casper with the sprays, so nasty. Using these guns to their advantage. And, oh my god, that shock dart plus Chloe, painful. They lost only one person.
Yeah, with how they're playing, I think we referred to it as a basketball game, right? This time it was a Kobe.
Oh yeah.
Even if there wasn't a headshot for Chloe right there, I think there would have been enough damage to just get one bullet and then achieve that kill. But look at this. OGT, they win the bonus against Big Sights. Full buy with the operator as well from Yamori taken away.
Yeah, and
Huge advantage for Haven, especially if this is their map pick.
Yeah, and I'm just really liking the fact that for Orangutan,
Here.
they're understanding how to use their gun to their advantage. And this time around, Chloe, despite the fact that she was pushed out there by the weapon, goes down in the end. But look at the trade that comes to Gwen for two. She's just popping heads. Casper finds her in the end. It's still one more person. Come on, Gwen! Oh my god, she nearly got the whole team with just the sheriff.
I think that was a great return and a great revenge for Big Sight. The full buy of OGT with just sheriffs, frenzies, they're able to eliminate 4.
Oh my god, Gwen! Popping heads like there's no tomorrow. And you know how incredibly hard it is to land those shots when you are under pressure. It's insane.
Almost a big win, as you mentioned, right?
I still forgot I made that pun. Oh man, this around. Hunter's Fury clears out the area. Flash as well means Yamori is not able to push out, and Chloe immediately gets one, and Japips as well. Finds Marsh in the back of sight. Surprising how they're able to really challenge the off is honestly so insane to me. Nebula not helping them at all. As well as those utils just to buy some more time. 3 on 5. Just waiting here. Wall bangs just to come through, clear out the box area. As Chloe pinging out where exactly they're gonna be. Idea is after they push out, then they get punished for it. Capricious, that's one Zinni as well. Run and gun. And Japips was again with the short sword in hand. And this time around, they're not allowing that knife to happen. They say no more Tondo gaming, my friends. That's enough. As Ophelia, perhaps the best way for you to do this is to save. Hotline goes out and immediately swings out. No knife for Japips, but they do get a falling round.
I am very amused by how much effort Japips really wants to get a knife kill. I mean, the showing of effort, right? Going up that window, peeking out with her knife out. She wanted to catch them off guard, but
there's a reason why for that, by the way. So
why?
I saw her tweet just now, and she said it's the Oni katana. It makes her feel like a samurai. She wants to knife everyone. It's the best.
Well,
I mean, honestly, if you're gonna buy that katana, you might as well use it, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you spent for the skin, right, might as well use it. And what more? I mean, what
In
other
style.
platform to do it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, here in
on
Game
the big
Changers,
stage.
yeah, hundreds of people watching you. I think that's a great platform to showcase your quote-unquote knife skills.
Oh wow, we're on the same wavelength. I love it. I love it, Donut. But let's talk a little bit about OGT now. 5 in a row. So
5
usually
in a
around
row.
6 here, yeah, is when I always question why exactly do tides change around 6? And Colden, one of the Singaporean casters, told me it's because of the util economy.
Placing swarm grenade.
Yeah,
Placing
I
swamp
think I
grenade.
agree at that point, right? It's not just the utility, but also the ultimates that are available to you. Similar to how Big has now already racked up a lot of orbs for that lockdown. Yamori's Blade Storm as well, so this might be a big change and a huge tidal wave for them, as long as they use it right and they
Oh,
find the
man.
timing.
Yeah, they are gonna push up from A. So I'm liking the fact that this, I'll say, proactive situation coming in from Big Scythe. I want to catch them off guard on A main, but they haven't pushed up quite yet. It's gonna be a C hit this time. Look at how many utilities have been put on the spike here. Aruma playing on the backside, immediately dash on the spike. Chloe eats up a chunk of damage, not enough to take her down, regardless. As Ruma, I don't think they know that she's on top of the platform. They do spot out in the end. Zini, very proactive with checking Capricious and Casper, one each. Now it's down to Yamori and Ophelia. They were going for those flanks, and now they decided to go for a pincer instead. And Ophelia, she does so much damage with the Sheriff. Regardless, Yamori with the blades gets Japips. She's out of
Last player
knives now.
standing.
All she has in her head is just the frenzy. She has to get close enough. Gets a nice little upgrade there. Good weapon in hand. Let's see if she can pop some heads. Is the question. No one peeking just yet. Holding the angle. If she were to go into sight immediately, they was gonna react. Timing is going to be very important here as Chloe with the crouch. She's in the crouch at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the perfect way to counter a jet, right? When it comes to precision, you would always be aiming at the head level. And Chloe's so good when it comes to that mechanic, especially that she outdueled Yamori, an operator versus a vandal. And at that point, right, if you want to really disable a jet, is you want to, maximize the tricks. And I think Chloe has that, right? Not just about the ability to flank when you're attacking, or at the same time to defend the sites, but also the mechanic in order to counter your best or your worst opponent.
Situation for Orangutan and change in pace as they try to go in for that mid peak. I think it's a good idea, honestly, because you can usually catch some stragglers on B side, especially the ones who are a little bit too overzealous. Speaking of overzealous, no one gonna be too aggressively peeking here. Gwen and Yamori gonna give up that space because of that fault line. Very deep nebula as well to give them access to the orb.
You should run.
Lockdown.
The lockdown is here now, and let's see
Spots
who
out
more
Zinni.
spots out. Zinni.
No follow-up though. As immediately, Yamori playing a very aggressive plays. Yamori gets one, but Casper finds her in the end. That's huge. Nice little area of take, but Capricious just pushed out of the way. Displaced. I don't think anyone noticed her there actually, despite the Rolling Thunder and the Aftershock. Capricious still gets away with Gwen. You have two different cosmic divides, I believe, in two different areas. And that Aftershock just clearing out the area. Flashes as well. All the units just thrown out. Zinni sprays! And Japip saves the day as well. Clean round once again from Orangutan.
Two sets of ults there used by both of the teams. Rolling Thunder first. Reaction right for the retake. And then the second one also is the Cosmic Divide. If there's that much utility used, it's how you are able to counter it, or how you're able to reposition. I guess OGT had a better position during the time because they had to play with it themselves. And against that Cosmic Divide, if you run through it, Capricious will be there. Zinni was holding an off angle. You aren't able to try and counter that. Big Scythe. They need to be able to maximize that ult and get kills out of it. But I guess during the time, they weren't able to. And they're in the cycle of buying of their rifles, an operator for Yamori, and then when they lose, they're left with sheriffs. But at least the sheriff got a kill against Casper.
It's huge. Japip's 5 HP as well. Getting tagged by it. How aggressive they are right now. Capricious gets tagged. She does have the Blade Storm at the same time. They still are in the lead when it comes to firepower, but with Japip so very low, without Casper, might be problematic. They do lose Ophelia.
Destroyed.
Chloe still holding. I did mention her as an unstoppable force, an unmovable force rather. When she holds, she really holds it. And Marsh Really liking the fact that she is playing a more proactive role in catching them in the mid rotates. You have all over the map as Chloe gets one more, catches Marsh. You can see that for Orangutan, they may be playful, they may be quick. Precision is definitely something they still have in mind. Yamori with a huge flank in the backside, unfortunately gets spotted out there. They know exactly where she is as Capricious takes out 2 as Gwen and Ruma. Yamori, they know exactly where she is. Capricious now out of the way.
Spike planted.
Capricious? Sorry, Yamori has no clue where the other members are. And look at the hold here by Chloe. Finds her in the end. Isolates just big now from the team. Gets one more. And Capricious gets 3 in the bag as well.
I mean, if Yamori could have gotten that first kill, do you think that the round might have changed? Because the trigger discipline was able to just get her the gun and probably get 2 kills, right? That was Chloe and then Japeeps, who's solo. But at that point, right, would you have been rewarded more if you got that kill against Zinni?
I think like she was really, I would say like the fact that Orangutan knows how to bait. And using Japeeps of the bait because she's so very low is just so smart. Just sets it up for Capricious, no?
I guess so. I mean, at that point, right? Japeeps was already low, first contact, then a kill, but Yamori this time against the Jets.
Oh man!
Chloe with that kill, beautiful.
It's just so quick. Gets her so fast. Picks on both sides. Capricious out of the way, but Capricious has done her job on the side already. Immediately, Gwen comes over and does get one rather.
Enemy remaining.
For 2 Orphilia, that was foreshadowing my end. Strapips. She knows that she doesn't have to push it. She knows that she doesn't have to go a bit too aggressive, but that's what exactly happened to her 2 teammates. Punished by Orphilia. Naruma all alone here. Tips gets caught out. Back of sight. Playing on the other end. She still has utils to play with. Casper! Nearly goes down, but saves it. Now we go 0-9. Orangutan's favor.
Yeah, that is a huge gap, and that could be a bit demotivating for the team, right? If you haven't gotten around because of how OGT is playing. It's not that Big Scythe are making these mistakes, but it's about how OGT are just outsmarting Big Scythe. It's about the plays, about the variety of the strategies that they have. They sometimes play so quick, but they also slow down. Leaves Big Scythe guessing all the time where they really are. So
oh my god, Capricious! That's a big pick so very fast. Chloe, ready for 2. Understanding economy is what makes Orangutan so stifling in my opinion. They have the better guns and also better aim, at least for this round.
Yeah, Capricious only got a Spectre at that point, but look at that! The tracking for the blades. They know that they're also low, so 2 blades would be enough. The precision for the rest of the members, Chloe. You know when you have a teammate and you're very confident about the teammate, so you would go and entry for her as well? So Chloe has changed her playstyle to adjust to how Capricious plays. And right now, it's showing how she really is. She's a fragger. She also supports the duelist in her own way, right?
It's just very suitable. I mean, it's really hard to play aggressive as a Killjoy, but Chloe makes it so easy. It's just so flawless in how she plays. I mean, imagine, I think at this point, it's sort of like how we talk about Scary from Bleed on him playing Viper. Same thing as Chloe. How long has she played this Killjoy? This Killjoy is definitely an embodiment of how she plays as a person. Regardless, Aldrin out. Tags out Casper. It's enough for them to really pinpoint where exactly everyone's going to be. But Casper is just the diversion. Look at where the spike is.
Yep, all a distraction. But Orphilia might have an idea where they currently are, but dodges that. And even the gravity will give them cover.
Immediately finds her! Just so shocked here, but Ophelia does find her in the end. Chloe puts down that lockdown. Just waiting here, Zinni just buying some time, waiting for anyone with the long rotations. This time without Killjoy, without Aruma.
30 seconds
Might be a little bit too annoying to hold, but without Capricious as well, they still get the sight.
Yeah, the
You
sight.
spot out one player.
They have the utilities.
Yeah, look at this aftershock as well. Clears out the entire area of that immediately. Just reacting with that utility. Chloe and Zini does it so well. Look at that. A nice little combination with their utils and gameplay. That was the what do you call that? Gravity well.
You should run.
Yeah, that gravity wall should have pushed her in the middle, right? Should have pulled her in the middle, but it wasn't effective. Capricious, she controlled where she had to hide. And when it was time for peekaboo, she sees everybody else. And when they got the sight right, they were so ready with how they were just holding the utility. They were waiting for that call, waiting for a moment, a movement from Big Scythe.
Oh my god, look at this fast push because of the Hunter's Fury from Japips. Clears out all of the areas. Unfortunately, Big Marsh will get caught out here, but she gets 2 in that process. Japips finds Yamori in the end. Marsh displays, but Gwen with the nice little rotate catches them off guard. Don't know if they notice that she is gonna be there. Regardless, Fazini finds Oraphilia in the end. Plays up close and personal. Gwen does get Casper in the end. One person left alive here is Zinni. Can she make a miracle play happen? Immediately gets one. Nope, it's gonna be Marsh with 4 in the pocket.
Finally a round for Big Scythe, but it was quite late when they had to find their footing. The rounds were close, don't get me wrong. But what's more valuable is not just the kills, but the wins that you're able to get. And finally, Big Scythe, this might be something that, you know, could be another OG moment when it comes to the team. But I guess more thoughts on what happened during the first half. Right? Why did OGT get 11 and Big Scythe only 1? Well, let's hear from our host and our analyst, Raf and Rayrachu. Let me know.
Thank you, Donut and Tash. Orangutan with the almost perfect 11-1 first half. These girls ate and left no crumbs. Raph, walk me through the snowball.
I mean, Donut did ask, why does Big Scythe have 1 round and Orangutan have 11? Well, because Orangutan won 11 rounds, Donut. I'm pretty sure you see it on the scoreboard. No, okay, so here's the thing, right? Before we get into the macro of the game and just the performances of our individuals, I feel like this could honestly be one of the more leaning towards, guys, we are losing bad, we have to do something. And with that type of mindset, they might be losing a little bit of diligence to just clear the more, I would say, common angles, and in turn they're getting just fragged out. I mean, Zinni was probably one of the biggest examples of that when she was playing off the Astra wall in on A. Obviously they did get around on the board for themselves with Big Scythe. Orangutan have been in this situation before, but they were not the ones to give the 11 round dominance. So maybe, just maybe, Big Scythe can turn it around, but first they have to start thinking with a little bit more clarity and just, as I mentioned earlier, diligence.
Yep, of course, it's always going to be difficult when you're facing such a tough scoreline. Also, knowing that this is map 2 in a best of 3 series, you've already dropped map number 1. Well, guys, we're going to see what Big can do while staring death straight in the face. Donut and Tash, back over to you.
That's a great response, Raf. Oh, so sorry.
Sorry,
that was a great
we're
response.
just like talking at the same time, but like I wanted to say that well, I mean, number 1, Raph is not numbers person. We already know that. It's already established. And number 2, 11-1, can we see a reverse Orangutan from last season?
Could be. Could happen, right? Against them. If they did it, then so can Big Scythe. I think that's definitely a possibility, especially with the team. I think we saw some big moments during Ascent, but we haven't really been seeing that here in Haven. Apart from the last round that we saw wherein, I think it was Marsh, who shined and got that one.
Because they didn't check the corner. Unfortunately, they whiffed and Iruma makes it big. Big pick. But it's gonna be at least a trade for teammates for Orangutan here. A retake on B isn't too difficult, I believe. Regardless, that flash. Chloe gets 2. Iruma gets 1 more. Zinni finds Marsh in the end. Really love the fact here that Casper. What from that range? Excuse me. What is that sound, Jonah? What is that sound? What's going through your mind?
I think they're just playing around at this point. They're celebrating with utility, right? I thought that Japips was gonna throw in a shock bolt actually. Then that could have been, you know, a lot of damage.
Look at that.
No save, but I think they still win their credits. That was quick reactions for OGT. And at this point, I think they're really looking to close this out. I think I haven't seen a bigger lead than this in my whole experience of casting Game Changers. I'm not too sure if you have, but I think the biggest gap was like 13-2 or 13-3.
I mean, I've seen 13-0. Yeah, I've seen that before.
In Game Changers?
Yeah, Enigma Galaxy. I think it was against Alter Ego, I believe.
Ooh.
Yeah, regardless, in this situation, Chloe with the aggression and the shorty! She gets away with that! She gets away with straight up murder! Marsh in the corner here, run and gun as Casper gets one more. Chloe is just having the time of her life here. When you get shotgun kills, you know it's serious. Capricious with the judge as well. They find Aruma in the end. Quick
Defenders
ending.
win.
2-0 in favor of Orangutan. I have not seen a cleaner 2-0 so far.
Yeah, I mean, that was so clean, and even Chloe, a quick switch to her shorty. Right? If you run out of bullets, I mean, you push forward with a shotgun. But at this point, right, a 13-1 is what we saw from Big Scythe. Not necessarily an equal performance as to what they did in a sense. In a sense, they seem so decisive. They seem to stick together. But I don't know what fell apart during Haven.
I mean, it is Orangutan's map pick, and they're really showing why exactly they're the reigning kings or the queens for that map in particular. Regardless, I'm gonna pass it over to our panelists. It's gonna be Ray Rachu as well as Raf. Break it down for us, my friends.
13-1 on Haven to take this to a 2-0. Orangutan's map pick, I mean, coming out of the switch, just more of the same that we'd seen. 11-1 to that clean 13-1. Raf, what do we think?
I'm thinking that 11 plus 2. No, you know what? I'm just gonna stop with that. But I feel like, as I mentioned, right, there was a lot of clarity being demanded on the side of Big Scythe, especially when they're down in that type of situation, right? And I feel like they just could not recover from what happened in map 1, knowing that was supposed to be their tempo setter where they would really start to snowball out of control, because after all, they did have an undefeated record to really take care of. And as we mentioned earlier, they are still somewhat of an unknown quantity, whether we know what type of floor and ceiling they really have. But I feel like they still really had their moments where everybody stepped up. In a different light also, we did mention that Orangutan did also take a map of RRQ Kaguya, so that is one of the powerhouses, and I feel like that was already somewhat a preview of how strong this team can be.
Whew. Yeah, I mean, looking at it from the Big Scythe perspective as well, right? Like map number 1 up until the half, up until the rollback, it did look pretty close. You're kind of thinking, was it the momentum? Like what kind of killed their run halfway through? But just looking forward to tomorrow, how are Big Scythe going to regroup? What are your thoughts? What are the major things they need to work on?
Man, I mean, like we said, there's a semblance of what they want to do. The intention is there, but perhaps maybe just refining the approach to how to do it is something that they have to really address. And of course, really just take a step back and clear their minds first, so this doesn't seep into future performances.
Yep, and guys, we're going to take a look at the scoreboard for that map number 2. Kind of expecting to see a bit of crazy numbers from that, and whew, Chloe TTW with the MVP Killjoy 385 combat score. Respectfully, what is that ACS on Killjoy? But 20 and 8, very well deserved this time around. I think Capricious, Chip Peeps, the duo that we've been talking about, taking a bit bit more of a step back this time, 238 to 27, but also putting up some very impressive scores. I think Yamori, just the fact that in a 13-1 game, she was still able to rack up that 814 KD just shows how much of an impact that she still had even in a losing map.
Absolutely, and we have to take all these types of stats and literally everything what we can get from this match, because as we mentioned, and we would love to reinforce, that Big Scythe is still a relatively new team. For them to actually make it this far is an achievement in itself, but the growth should not stop there. Wow, look at this. Coach pep talk. Wow, that was unexpected. But in any case, guys, 13-1, incredibly dominant on the side of Orangutan, and with just everybody firing on basically maximum capacity, I think OGT is gonna be so ready for what's ahead of them. But I am honestly excited to see the knife kills. Were there knife kills in this one? There were already too many to keep track of.
I was just watching it, Chloe's beautiful 4K that she had earlier. I mean, you know when players get that 4K and you're like, yo, like which teammate grabbed the A? So this time around it was kind of fine because she only got 1 kill and then her teammate grabbed the second one before she ended off with 3K. If it's like you already have a 4K and someone else is alive, like are you really teammates if your team doesn't enable you to get that last one, you know?
I mean, talking about enabling teammates, of course, we have the anchor, Chloe, being an absolute beast, an absolute wall in this map, not allowing anything to come into fruition for Big Scythe. And as you mentioned, those numbers are absolutely off the charts, especially for a Sentinel, when the Sentinel is also expected to take the brunt of the utility. Sometimes you just kind of stand there and like, guys, I'm getting flashed. Guys, I'm getting recon. Guys, help.
Support life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, Chloe, this girl, she can do everything, right? Like, she can shoot, she can clutch. We've seen her in those moments in Game Changers over the last few years where she ends up being the last person left still alive, but still manages to pull things out in that, like, 1v3 situation. And also, like, you know, Killjoy, Sova, Cypher, we've seen she's just so good at playing these agents and being there for her team. And just one thing that I love about all the series that we've seen today is just how varied the MVPs end up being, right? Because it's not always just all about that duelist, even though they are very deservedly getting a lot of the attention. But I love how we're seeing like those MVPs going to the more supportive roles.
Absolutely. I mean, we need every single person and every single role to really operate for the team to hit, as I mentioned earlier, max capacity. It is a team game, guys. There's 5 of you. The spotlight is big enough for everybody.
Yep, we're going to take a look at the brackets and the schedule for tomorrow real quick. I believe the mainstream games are still ongoing between RQ and Capybara Gang. So this is the bracket for the other 3 best of 3 series since the last one isn't done yet. So tomorrow we're going to start things off with SMG versus SPH, and then we're still waiting to see whether RQ or Capybara Gang will be playing Orangutan in the second round of the upper bracket. Of course, since this is double elimination, the teams that kind of fell short today will have their second chance at redemption tomorrow. So we're going to see GE face off versus GOC, and then Big Scythe kind of still waiting to see who out of RQ and Capybara will drop down to the bottom. But should be a pretty exciting another day of games. I think with the top 8 in the upper bracket, there's no real seeding or shuffling that, especially for Open 1, it's not really as obvious. But I think when you see the teams that do get dropped down to the lower bracket and then the top 4, it starts to stratify, and then you get those very close, even series. So I think it'll be exciting tomorrow.
Absolutely, and we do have a very, very exciting series, something that really did catch by a rematch between SMG and Sapphire, so that's going to be my personal favorite. What about you, Ray Richu? Is there any match there that's really caught your eye?
I think that one has got to be definitely the series and the match to watch tomorrow. I think today we were kind of hoping for like 2-1s. I know we predicted that the earlier series today, right, with GE and SMG, we were hoping that it was going to go the distance, but then it ended up being a 2-0. I think tomorrow, what I want to see is all the games, all the maps, all the games, all the action. That's just what I want to see. But guys, thank you so much for joining us for day number 1 of the VCT Game Changers APAC Series 1. It's been a fun time from Raph and I on the desk, as well as our casters, Tash Bunny and Donut. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place.